from server to endpoint solutions now to cloud, whereby now people want to access whatever they want to access securely from everywhere. And the key thing, cloud technology cannot survive if cyber security is not there.
Wow.
Because now we take whatever you had in possession. You can imagine you have your phone and your photos sit on your phone. Now we're taking away the photos to probably a private server somewhere.
Hello and welcome to the CEO Bench. My name is Eddie Okila and this is House of Talent Television. The CEO Bench brings you the guest today who is a security expert, a man who is, heavily invested into the business of cybersecurity and infrastructure development in Uganda. Is a company that started about 10 years ago. And 2015, he branched into cybersecurity and infrastructure development and enterprise, bringing solutions to businesses and, making things that business more secure for us all. Ladies and gentlemen, all across the world, the guest on the CEO Bench this particular morning, afternoon, or night, depending on which part of the world you are actually watching the CEO Bench from, is Adrian Kamoga. Adrian, welcome to the program.
Thank
Here
you.
we spread love, according to Pastor Joshua Mugabe. He says when we do this, you have to spread your fingers to give love out here.
I remember that.
How are you?
Thank you, Eddie, for hosting me.
Great.
Yeah, great stuff.
And to start with Adrian, we want to know, who is Adrian Kamoga?
Wow. My name's Kamoga Adrian.
Yes.
I'm from Masaka.
Yes.
The
place that has many problems.
I love it.
Yes.
Yes. So, I'm a businessman.
Yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm an expert in computing.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, my journey started a couple of years back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not been easy.
Okay.
Yeah. But over the time, I've learned a couple of things. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So on that note, if a person is trying to get to know, first of all, are you Ugandan? If yes, what are the values that define you as a Ugandan?
Well, I'm Ugandan.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely I'm Ugandan. I'm born here, and I've studied here.
Okay.
I'm not from MIT or what. I'm just from Uganda. Yes,
Okay.
Yes, I'm Ugandan.
And Adrian, what are the values that?
Majorly, is that I've done so much to make sure that we grow the ICT sector of Uganda. Yeah.
Okay.
I would have gone to other countries. I had opportunities to do my business in Tanzania, in Kenya. But I said no. My core value is to see that the ICT sector in Uganda grows. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the people who nominated you to come to the program.
Playing music, putting music on people's CDs.
Yes.
Well, the opposite, and took me some time to explain. As of now, I would talk about, I would say it's digitization. Going digital on everything, yeah? It's a combination of a lot of things, from gadgets, from the technology, from the connection of how you're able to stream whatever you're streaming now.
Yeah.
It's all IT,
Okay.
yeah? So how those networks work, how they interconnect, how the devices communicate in an environment. Yeah. Now, when we go to an enterprise, well, we are focused on enterprise technology, and I used to have a lot of inquiries back in the day, and someone comes to me and says, oh, I need a computer. I want to buy a computer for myself. And sometimes I would tell them, okay, we can help you as an individual, but that's not our focus. So the enterprise is, we focus on provision of solutions to all verticals, the financial sector, the education, government. We're looking at big kind of organizations. Okay. That's now the enterprise bit. Okay. So cybersecurity is making sure that the environment we operate in is secure. Okay. The cyberspace. Okay. Yeah. You know, when someone wants to understand how computer, there's also a connection. Okay. And that's how the internet comes about, the inter-network, whereby I could be here and I'm able to communicate to someone in the US. Yeah. I could be here and maybe the server that hosts my emails is probably running in UK, but I can be able to access it here. So now the connection, how we communicate, now the need to bit comes in, because probably the hacker would want to know exactly which kind of communication are you having, and what are you sharing. Are you sharing private stories? And that could be vital information for that person. It's always shared and sold in the cyberspace, in the dark web.
Wow. We're actually going to get into that bit of the dark web and the white head and the white hat, the black hat. Well, we are welcoming you to the CEO Bench. Of course, Eddie Okello right here, and of course, Adrian Kamoga, who is our guest, today on this particular, CEO Bench program. He was nominated by over 25 votes to come into the CEO Bench, and the people in the technology world said, you hosted Elijah Chitaka, we need another, discussion about our sector on the CEO Bench. We've got some CEOs. Normally people in the technology are not known. They hide from people. They can't talk very nicely because they talk in more of a technical point of things than to explain things. they tend to be the back end of things. But we want to bring the technology people to the forefront. We want to bring the CEOs, the investors in this tech business out, and also to the space. Adrian, the particular TV program that you're on today, the CEO Bench, is a 1-hour weekly television program. It focuses mainly on individual leaders. Okay. And when we talk about that, we're looking at people in position of leadership. We're looking at people who have led self to a certain degree. To YouTube, for one to make it here, you must have made it to a certain degree of growth. Okay. So we want to look at the self-leadership, we want to look at the change management, we want to look at the, transformation. When we talk about self-leadership, how are you able to pick yourself from the beginning to where you are today? And I want to take just a little bit back to start with the leadership part of that. Growing up in the streets of Masaka, if I told you were in the streets of Masaka or in Kampala, what were you looking for when you were growing up? What inspired you as a child before we get into, the deep end of leadership? Yeah. Yes. Well,
when it comes to leadership, my journey in leadership has been quite lengthy. Yeah. If I start from the composition of my family, I'm the second born. Yeah. In the unit of my family, in families we have extended families. I'm talking about particularly my father and mother. Yeah. I'm a second born and the firstborn boy. Okay. So leadership has been in me, in blood. Okay. Whereby in so many circumstances at home, I acted as a leader. I was always given the leadership position.
Just by the fact that you were the first boy.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and I remember when I was changing school from Shak to Kampala, from St. Henry's to Kampala, I actually became the head prefect at my A level. Yeah. So even during my course in the university, I always took I always took the position of guidance and leadership.
Yeah.
So that's where my focus started from in terms of leadership.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did your father sort of like mentor you into becoming who you are today, or was your mother a leader, or was your father a leader? Who was in that position of leadership that was pushing you to make sure you become somebody of a development, of a significant human being in society?
Well, my father was a businessman.
Yeah.
He was a teacher, a professional teacher,
Yeah.
and he was a headmaster. And even in my A-level school,
Yeah.
he had a big position in the board of directors. So I always looked up to my father, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay.
First of all, the entrepreneurial bit, and then the leadership bit. Yeah.
How was that possible for a teacher to be a teacher and a teacher, and at the same time entrepreneurship? Did he own the school? How usually teachers are either teachers in African settings, they don't do much, and teachers all across the world are not very good entrepreneurs unless they live and cross. We've seen, of course, in recent times where teachers are crossing a lot more into the tech business, into the tech world, into the business world, but it wasn't before. You know, I mean, how was he able to do this back then, if you recall when you're young?
Well, my father initially was one of the first black deputy head teachers in St. Henry's College, Kitovu. Yeah, and that's how he got to be nominated. He has been on the board for a couple of Catholic institutions, SMARC. There's another school called Kasasa in Masaka.
Yeah.
So he transformed from being a head teacher to doing now private business, whereby he started his own school a couple of years ago. And then, of course, I studied in his school for the whole of my primary section. Yeah, and of course, it was an inspiration how he could manage the business. His numbers grew from about 200 pupils to about 1,000.
Okay.
And of course, we have a couple of people who have gone through his hands in Kampala. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Adrian, talking of the leadership, by the way, just before we take a small break, I want to ask you a question. You know, leadership and the definition of leadership is not something that is very, taken lightly or understood by many people, for lack of a better word. What is your definition of leadership? And who is a leader to you? First of all, what is leadership, and who is a leader to you?
Well, leadership to me is like guidance, guiding people towards a certain vision.
Okay.
And being on top there, making the strategic decisions, and making sure that you get to the top.
You as a person, or you as the people?
As an institution.
Okay.
As an institution.
And who is a leader to you?
To me, a leader would be someone who now has the values of leadership. Because not everyone who is a CEO or a CFO, a CIO is a leader. Yeah. Some people actually fail to guide their teams to success. So if someone who has the values, the core values of leadership, is the person who...
And what would you term as the core value of leadership to you? If you would say, you mentioned the word quite a number of times. What is your core value of leadership?
Of leadership.
Yes.
So to me, some of the things is understanding, someone who understands the vision.
Yeah.
The vision. And then someone who can be able to manage a team of people, because it's not easy to manage people when it comes to institutions, because people have their different, when you gather people into one place and have them focus towards a certain goal, that's a core value. Some people enter into leadership for probably growth of their careers, individual careers. But now when you're a leader, you stop thinking about yourself. You think about the people. Because whatever you do affects the entire institution, the entire probably department you're trying to run. Yeah.
Okay. And on that note, Adrian, are you a leader?
Well, I've been a leader since 2010, because that's when I decided to go into private business. I started as a CEO, and I'm still a CEO. Yeah. Well, and of course, it's evident in the market of what we've been able to achieve. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you go back from when you were a child,
Yeah.
do you think you had the DNA of a leader?
I think
that
so.
You are today?
Yeah, I think so.
How did you arrive to that point to say
I think so.
When you say
yeah, because I think I've always driven myself into leadership position. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Adrian, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we want to be able to tackle the question of, cybersecurity. And you out there, we want you to drop us kisses and disses, your comments if we're doing well. We are, of course, live. You can catch us on Facebook, House of Talent Uganda, and you will be, in things. And share that fun white. Subscribe to our Facebook, broadcast channel, as well as our YouTube, and of course, House of Talent Uganda YouTube. Right there, House of Talent TV, and you'll be in things. We're also live on our, website. We cannot host the cybersecurity, CEO and not be able to do this thing like live on our www.houseoftalentug.com is live. Please go and share fun wide. It's for our all, wider family all across. The CEO Bench will take a break, and when we come back, the interview on the CEO Bench with Adrian Kamoga will continue shortly after the break.
There's a lot that is involved in the civil society organizations. There's leadership in itself, there's management of processes, there's management of the human resource, there's fundraising, there's research. It's a lot that needs to be done, and many times there is a feeling that is too much for a woman because she has other traditional roles that she needs to do as at home. Yeah. So many times as people are looking for leaders in civil society organizations, the priority is usually given to men because of our society that feels that men have the time, men have the capacity, men have the ability to lead, to take this organization to greater heights. And women, there will be a problem. They will have to go to maternity leave. They have issues. They are too emotional. They have not done the courses that are good enough for leaders. They don't have time to to go for extra learning or to go for work outside Kampala because they have to tend to their children. So there's too much that society has tied around a woman. And it's true, we have these traditional roles that we have to do, but does not in any way mean that women cannot lead in these spaces.
Welcome back from that break. This is the CEO Bench. My name is Eddie Okila, and my guest in the studio is Kamoga Adrian, who is the CEO and the founder of an ICT firm called the Standard ICT and Enterprise Solutions Uganda.
Yeah.
He's been there in the business for some time. And Adrian, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
We are talking about leadership. And of course, if you're joining us from anywhere across the world, we want to say thank you very much for coming to the CEO Bench. The CEO Bench has a huge following from all across the world. Yeah. And like you said, we already embraced the ICT world. Like you said, we're interneting with so many other people out there. We need to look into our cybersecurity if it's safe. That's why we're broadcasting on our website. So Adrian is an expert on cybersecurity, and he's been there since 2015 now as a specialist on that sector. Adrian, Transformational leadership approach and leadership abilities that often define the leader's level of effectiveness is our focus this morning. And we've talked about leadership so far to that level. I want you to tell us something more now. Transitioning to starting your business, a lot of people don't understand what to do and how to do it. You're a young person who is leading self, and you've led self very well to this level, and we can see it. And then we've also looked into the change management, or the management of change and development within self as a person. You as a person, how are you managing the change within yourself? And then we looked at the business or the similar organization that you are leading, if you've now gotten yourself into, you know, the leadership of that organization. And the third thing we always look for is the control identification and implementation of some of these things that we're talking about change as a person. We are moving from one environment to the next. It requires that we are very much organized. To leave a job to go to a next job is not an easy for everyone, and people struggle to make their way up there. So many people don't know how to go about it, and it can be exhausting as well, and some people give up very easily. Then we look at what is next for that leader or for that CEO if you're moving. Have you ever been employed, by the way, when you're going into change management? Let's talk about your life from school to where you are now. How did you end up here?
Actually, my life is quite interesting. And sometimes when I'm meditating and I'm thinking about my journey in how I've managed to build myself. I never went to school to study business. I never went to school to study leadership. It has been in me from day one, because way back when I was still in school, when I was still in A-level actually, I used to, I had the love for business. Because I remember that by that time I used to do clothing. I started a clothing business. And I used to organize tailors and then mobilize them, get contracts from schools, and be able to supply the uniforms to the schools. That was my journey in A-level. And then I did that up to my vacation. So when I went to campus, now I did my computer science bachelor's. Of course, the gene for business, the love for business and leadership was already in me. So I remember I went for internship somewhere, and from there I was able to now understand how the systems work, how business models in ICT work. You know, this is what the component we always lack. We always go to school, learn the technology, but then when it comes to the business part, many people miss out. So I was able to get that touch as a trainee, and immediately after doing my training, I started.
Which organization was this?
The organization by then was called Mara Group of Companies. And under that, we used to be under a company called RAPS. So RAPS was one of the biggest companies by then, and it had very good leadership.
In ICT?
In ICT, yes. It was one of the biggest companies by then, but they were focused on infrastructure. So that is where I get the idea of infrastructure bit. And then I added on the cybersecurity later on.
So that changed. How did you move from there? Were you employed before? Did you ever seek employment? For how long were you employed?
I never sought for employment. All I did was I decided when I was in university, I said I need to understand how business works in ICT. So definitely I had to go into a bigger company as a trainee, but not as an employee.
And how long were you able to take in that?
I was in RAPS I entered RAPS in 2009, sorry. And then I was there for about 1.5 years. Because I started my first company in 2010, October 2010,
Adrian, I mean, a lot of people may not understand this. This is actually a very interesting case study of change management, but also transformational thinking from university. You've talked about being university and the ability for you to think entrepreneurial or entrepreneurship at that level. It's quite amazing. It's an incredible thought. The fact that you were a student at the university and you were thinking that I don't want to seek employment. Many of us were in the university. And the first thing we want to do is to work for a big organization.
Yeah, which is
and when I get out, I want to work for MTN. When I get out, I want to work for Africa Online. When I get out, I want to work for, you know, for Airtel of this world. I want to work for government. I want to work for this big organization. We are never thinking about working for ourselves or starting something for ourselves. But here you are telling us you're already thinking that direction. What influenced your decision to start thinking about entrepreneurship at that level? Why not seek for work? Why not first do work? You know.
Well, like I've told you that my transformation was from, I was in the clothing business.
Yeah.
And I had thought, you know, I used to read books of Donald Trump, of Think Big.
Oh, yes.
My idea about all my life,
yes.
I always look at the bigger picture of things.
Yeah.
Because even when I was in clothing business, I used to get guys from downtown Nakasero.
Yeah.
But my focus was to, I always often used to visit Phoenix in industrial area, because they used to do uniforms for bigger schools, and they used to handle bigger contracts. Yeah. So I used to always visit them so that I can try and understand how I can drive my business from just 2-3 schools to mass production of actually real clothing, line of clothing. Yeah. That was my focus. Now, the DNA in me was already business. So now, how I get into the idea of looking for a placement somewhere was to understand how systems work. And I was very, very humble in that company, to an extent that I actually grew from a trainee to an assistant, a technical manager, whereby I did I think about 3 contracts, whereby I was the team leader, and we did that across the entire country. I think by then it was for URI. We did actually maintenance for URI. So I had a team of about 6 guys, who were set in each region, and I had to make sure that they reach safely, they get accommodation, they get to do their job cards very well, and also we compile a report which was sent back to URA for final documentation for payments. Yeah. So I remember how I started my company. So it was not employment. It was to understand, or if I want to go to MTN, my focus would be to run a telecom company. That is me. That's how I drive my focus. My focus should be to run a telecom company. So when I get into MTN, I would want to know how the contracts, how do I get a license from UCC? You know, how do I get, which kind of units are organized in MTN? We have the telecom part, we have the marketing and sales department, we have this. So then I'll go down to try to understand how the organization structure is, with the focus of putting up a telecom company. When I entered RAPS as a trainee, my focus was to understand how the systems work. I never looked for money. I was not paid for 6 months in RAPS. Very humble. I would walk from school to our office and make sure every day I understand how is the job card written. How do you pitch a sale to a customer? And lucky enough, God was on my side. I managed to be humble until when the Indian who was our technical manager identified me as a leader within the organization. And when I went to the leadership stage, now I was able to interact with customers. Because when there was an issue that was needed to be solved, I would get into a judge with him. He used to drive a Bajaj. And when we go to a customer, and then he tries to understand. Probably the engineer came, he did sort something, but probably it was not sorted the right way. So then I started to build customer relationship experience. That's how I moved out. And when I was moving out, this is what I did. I got 5 guys. It was 1 lady, 4 guys. One was 3 guys. For us, we were in technical, and then 1 guy was in sales. Was a big guy in the sales department, and then 1 lady. She was managing a business in Uganda. Yeah. So I told them, you know what? You guys have been in the market for a long time. You have your customers. So why don't we rebrand and tell them, yes, well, RAPS has closed the business, but we can be able to still offer the solutions to you. That's how I started my journey in business. So when I started, well, we had a couple of meetings, and I think the guys were good to go. So I started in, of course, it's always not easy. Partnership business is not easy, because as a leader, you want to drive everyone to be on the same footing. Yeah. But of course, not everyone catches up. It has the speed that you're moving at. Yeah, of course, a couple of days broke off. The lady went to Canada, and the guy had a lot of responsibility, so he had to seek for employment somewhere because it was like a startup. Yeah. The three guys, we tried to drive the business until 2014, when I realized that, okay, now I needed to run from normal IT now to the enterprise space. And of course, the team was a bit reluctant to change. So I said, now, if I have to go, I have to go in all. So that's how I transformed into what I'm doing right now. Wow.
Yeah. We're talking to Adrian, and you've heard the story of what an amazing story right there, from campus, leading, going into an organization for 1.5 months and moving from there and starting a company. The mindset of a young man out of campus is an amazing story right there. And of course, the CEO Bench talks and looks at leadership, self-leadership, change management, and transformation. How are you able to lead yourself from one end to the next end? And how are you able to change your life from a poor, malnourished human being to a well-fed human being leading organization, okay? And of course, then that transformation, how does it look like? Do people understand it? Do people enjoy that journey of the transformation, or do people just simply don't understand you? Everything we do in life, it must lead to somewhere. That's what the CEO Bench is all about. And we're talking to Adrian Kamoga, who is the CEO, the founder and the CEO of Standard ICT Enterprise Solutions Uganda, a company that is providing now cybersecurity, solution business for businesses in Kampala and all across Africa. We're going to take another break, and when we come back, Adrian and I are going to dive into what is cybersecurity, deep end discussion on ICT. Tap your neighbor, tap your cousin, tap your brother and your sister, even the grandmothers and grandfathers who are not understanding how these things are, to come online. Let's have a conversation. Stay right there. I'll be right back after the break. Edio Killer, Adrian Kamoga. We're taking a break on the CEO Bench. We'll be right back after this.
Thank you.
Dr. Jinpo Olowo. Thank you for watching House of Talent Television. I love to inspire people. I love to talk about my experiences and how God has been able to use me in the different exposures. And through the leadership, through change management and transformation, I've been able to do a couple of things in my life. Now, are you a kind of person who is tired of your status quo? Do you want your situation to change? Are you tired of what is going on in your life? Change is a fact of life. We've all been through experiences in the last couple of months that have taken us to a place where we need to do something about our lives. We need to change whatever is going on. So if you have not piled up investment for yourself, you need to do that. If you've not done businesses to hold your family in future, you need to do that. Are you thinking of full-time employment? You need to be thinking about your life after employment or your business in the next couple of years. So if you want us to chat, if you want us to talk about this, please get in touch with us at SEAL Uganda on number 0772443085, or check our website www.sealuganda.com, or on all the social media handles. You can hook me up or Facebook, that is Jinpo Olowo, on Instagram, Jinpo Olowo, and on Twitter and LinkedIn. Then we can chat
a way forward with you. We can help you, we can coach you, we can walk with you this journey of financial freedom. Thank you.
It's the CEO Bench. My name is Eddie Okila, and this is House of Talent Television, where we discussed everything about leadership, change management, and transformation. You cannot run an organization when you do not have leadership abilities to be able to lead people from one end to the next. And neither can you be able to be successful in business when your leadership abilities is challenged, when your level of effectiveness is not measurable to, to the expectations of the people that you're going to serve and the product that you're bringing to the market. But of course, on the program today, we are talking to the CEO, the young man who left campus and started out not with the mindset I need to get a job and work, but a mindset of I need to be an entrepreneur. And it's quite an interesting journey, because looking at him from the ICT world, studying computer science at Makerere University or at the university, and coming out of that and going into entrepreneurship very shortly after that, is quite an amazing journey. Adrian, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the company that you now own today. We're talking about change management, and we've understood how you've been able to manage change from one end to the next. But I want to know from this perspective, let's talk about the organization. So you have now these guys, and they're working with you.
Yeah.
And in 2015, you turn around the situation to say, I don't want the normal, computer science service to the next. What we want to know from you is, what problems were you trying to solve in the market? A lot of us start businesses, and we never start business by, first of all, studying and understanding the need in the market, coming with a solution that will fix that problem in the market. Most times we just start businesses and we start running. We don't understand it. What informed your decision to come up with this kind of solution to the ICT world? What were you looking forward to solve as a problem?
Well, like I've explained, that initially the company that I used to work for, we used to do a lot of infrastructure projects, building data centers, building networks, providing the endpoint devices to the customers, setting up an IT environment so that you're ready to go to work. That is infrastructure. Of course, it encompasses a lot of things: the software that it needed to work, the hardware that you needed to work, and of course all the technologies combined. So how do I discover a niche in cybersecurity? Of course, in my journey, I always knew that information is key. Information is key. So I used to, early in 2014, I used to travel a lot. I used to travel to South Africa, travel to Europe, Middle East, trying to understand this thing of technology. We know what we study in school is not what is actually applied in the field. For example, if you go and study video production, you could get the theory. But then when you go to the field, actually, now you get to understand the dynamics. So I was able to, in my travels, I was able to identify that the niche of security is the next thing. That was now my transformation. Because I remember when I went to South Africa for a training on storage with Huawei. Of course, I knew South Africa was quite ahead of us in terms of technology. And back here in Uganda, people used to understand cybersecurity as probably someone should have antivirus. And actually, the key selling point,
yes.
and I remember I launched my firewall brand, which is currently Sophos in Uganda. I launched it back in it was rebranding from Cyberoam to Cyberoam NG series.
Yeah.
So I launched it in partnership with the Minister of ICT in Uganda.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of excitement everywhere, you know. People, they said, this thing is going to secure our internet. Yeah. And, you know, I love the description of the whole thing.
Yes.
From the ministry perspective, everyone was excited. The media was excited. Yeah. I actually failed to look into all the cameras because I had about probably 100 cameras around me, people asking me questions about how this device is going to work, how is it going to secure the traffic. Of course, they couldn't even understand what they were asking. But I was able to identify that the niche of cybersecurity was the next thing. Yes, the infrastructure was already there. Yeah. People had bought the gadgets. Yeah. People had built data centers. Yeah. The sharing of data from server to endpoints was of course there. Now, of course, we have the cloud. We've transformed from on-premise solutions now to cloud, whereby now people want to access whatever they want to access securely from everywhere. And the key thing, cloud technology cannot survive if cybersecurity is not there.
Wow. Because
now we take whatever you had in possession. You know, you can imagine you have your phone and your photos sit on your phone. Now we're taking away the photos to probably a private server somewhere. So, of course, the first thing you're going to think about is, are my items actually secure? That is the key thing.
Yes.
So, of course, I was able to understand that cybersecurity was the niche. Yeah. I now started doing a lot of knowledge search, training, individual training on cybersecurity, and being able to understand now how, or whatever you're going to ask me about the layers, the different layers of cybersecurity. If you close the door, where do you keep the key? If you close the door, have you closed the window as well? Because you could think that you're secure, but the window is open. Yeah? And probably you close the door, but you don't tell your kids that when I come in the night, probably this is how I'll call your name. And probably if they don't know that, and you come and you knock, and you say, hello, Eddie, and then they'll say, okay, that's Daddy. They'll come and open. So what is the use of the key or the burglar that you've put on the door? So that is now the beauty of cybersecurity.
Wow. I hope you're enjoying this interview as much as I am enjoying. I think that Adrian has really got his head cut out and his work cut out on this matter of cybersecurity. He speaks very profoundly about it. I want to take a moment just to read a couple of your questions coming from people, and we want to hear from you all across the world. We want to see people here in Denmark. Thank you very much, Edio Killer, for the CEO Bench. I'm a technology person studying cybersecurity. I'm mastered in cybersecurity. I live and work in Denmark. This guy is amazing. This particular topic is not quite very much understood all across the world. Ugandans are quite... The Africa security is not an issue, but if they come to Europe, they will understand how security is such an issue in Europe.
Yeah.
And somebody here, Stanley, says, I'm watching from the industrial area. Thank you very much, Stanley, right there. And Joseph Magula says, remember to get Nita Sat as well. We well done, talking to you, Adrian. And Steven is saying that worth hearing, amazing stuff. Thank you very much, guys. And I see here from Berry Jack saying it's amazing. David is watching, War, amazing. And I've seen Grace here and all of these guys, Morinda Normand. And all of you guys say Dubai is watching, son. So thank you very much, Mr. Mulindwa, all the way in Dubai, Normand in Dubai right there. And I want to dive to my friends in Australia. Eddie Okila, thank you very much for the CEO Bench. I live and work in Australia. I always wait for this program to come. I think the young man is an amazing person. I don't know whether I was with him in school. He looks familiar. He's not aware. But this is Dennis all the way in Australia, and says that I like what he's saying, securing our data, but I have a question for him along the way as you interview him. Can you please ask him how safe is our data, particularly from the African perspective, now that the African continent is not very much internet, and tech savvy? Not everyone is coming up with solutions, so that question is coming for you. You're probably going to answer that.
Yeah.
And I have another one saying here, Philip, all the way in London. Philip, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Says early morning, 2 hours behind. Enjoying the program. I'm an IT guy. I work in the train business here and the train section and the transport sector here. What he's saying is very important, because if the security is not very well, somebody can easily hack the system here and the transport system will shut down. The power system will shut down. So it's not something that Ugandans understand, but here everything is about cybersecurity and it's a lot. So I am a well-paid person in the sector.
Wow.
This is a Ugandan working in London.
Okay.
We'll read one more. Coming from the US says, thank you very much, Eddie Okila. Anyone who has watched the movie of cybersecurity will understand what that gentleman is talking about. I love particularly that you are able to bring such people onto the program. Adrian is talking things that Ugandan government needs to pay attention to, and every corporate company needs to pay attention to, because the next big thing is going to be about cybersecurity, and any enterprise that does not have security for its staff are going to have a problem. I like it that Adrian breaks down, Mr. Kamoga is breaking down to the layman language, like the border. The things is that talk about the windows, the doors, not close, the keys, safe, is an amazing stuff to hear. I'm glad that Uganda is beginning to get there. Thank you very much for the program. I hope we can have more CEO bench people coming who can speak more technical things like this. Thank you very much. We're definitely going to do that. All right, guys. Our time is running fast, but we need to have a discussion with Adrian right here. Adrian.
Yeah.
I think you can see a lot of people are beginning to, think through this entire, cybersecurity discussion. Let's dive into it a little bit. We don't quite understand a lot of things about your field.
Yeah.
And from the border stage, we don't understand. To the corporation, people don't understand. And also, government sometimes don't understand very much the importance of some of this. So people in government don't understand. Maybe a sector understand, but not everyone does. So I want to take you straight to this question. What is the role of cybersecurity as an expert to, let's say, an individual business, a corporation business? What is the role?
Well, cybersecurity is more focused on information. You see, Eddie, when you're running your business here, one of your key, probably one of your biggest asset is information.
Yeah.
Who do you deal with? How do you transact? How do you conduct the business? Probably that, we are talking about digitization of everything. We are moving into the digital world. Yeah. So cybersecurity is more about, of course, cyber is the cyberspace. Yeah. And then the security, of course, like you have a man guard on your door, yeah, or a guy who monitors your alarms here. Yeah. That is now physical security. Yeah. But now we are talking about intelligent security, whereby systems are put in place, policies are put in place to make sure that information that is vital to organizations, be it government. You've had a couple of cases whereby on social media, whereby we see that Parliament has been hacked. They're my customers. Yes. They've been hacked. Yes. And probably certain documents have been publicized, yes, or the government website has been put down. Yeah. Of course, security, there are a lot of things that if someone compromises your security, yeah, if someone gets to understand that probably if Ed is dealing with Adrian, the transaction that happens probably is 1 million shillings or is 5 million shillings, that's vital information. Yeah. If it's put out there, probably someone would say, oh, Eddie was overcharging us, or Eddie is undercharging us, So that information is key. Now, the information initially, of course, used to sit on the gadgets. Yeah? On the gadgets, whereby you have your PC, which you secure very hard. That's why the issues we had initially was about viruses. Yeah. Yeah. Because they understood, the guys who do the viruses understood that your data sits on your computer. Correct. So if I compromise it, yeah, and you're not able to access it, yeah, then I've attained that was the initial security. Yeah. Now we've moved from now having data sitting on devices we transform to a server-based kind of solution, whereby if we're in an organization like here, our data is seated on one PC, and because machines are interconnected through physical or wirelessly to that central machine, which is a server, we're able to communicate. But now remember, the security there was not really, maybe someone would physically break in, and probably steal the server. All the virus will probably encrypt or disorganize the files that you have seated on the PC. Now, we've moved from there. We transformed now from that management to be able to have AD work from home and be able to access the server. I remember you talked about the VPN connection, the virtual private networks, whereby I would guarantee AD that wherever he is able to securely access the server here, which is seated in his office, and able to transfer the files or share or edit. If it's a document, if it's a pipeline document you are editing, you need to make sure that that connection is secure.
Adrian nicely spoken about that. At least you give an understanding. Now, there is this VPN was never VPN known as it is now in Uganda and in most African countries. We even didn't know it does exist until the elections in Africa started, until the Arab Spring started, until the internet started to have its own, being blocked by different governments to manage so many other things. And then VPN became VPN. And now everybody knows VPN. A border man knows VPN. A taxi driver knows VPN. A Okada rider in Nigeria knows VPN. The tuk-tuk in Tanzania knows VPN. What is VPN in a nutshell? What is VPN and how did it become very popular here?
Well, I think VPN has been, personally I've been working with VPN since 2014 because in the firewall, the Sophos, the Cyberoom, by then that we launched, of course, we had a component whereby the companies had what we call roaming users, the users that want to sit in the office, or it's a branch office and they're about 2, 3, 4 guys, but they would want to privately connect back to the head office so that they can be able to access information at the office remotely. So we used to configure what we used to call a VPN tunnel for those customers, whereby we have a client software that sits on their PCs now that encrypts whatever they're doing and transmit it securely to the head office. So the firewall at the head office will be able to decrypt that and translate that those requests and be able to forward them to wherever they were supposed to go. So how VPN came into Uganda, of course, the popularity came on the Facebook, on the social media blocking by the government for security reasons. So what happens is, of course, some people around the world, of course, understood the VPN business and they're able to provide applications which sit on your device. So you're able to disguise because it's a virtual private network. So it's like no one can understand, I virtually connect to you, and he will not know, no one will know actually what we are discussing, It's like a silent kind of communication. It's not loud. If it's loud, because the government will go and say, this particular DNS or this particular website is going to be blocked. So definitely they will just say, this IP address for Facebook or this particular name for Facebook has been blocked. So now, because the communication that is happening between the VPN client on your phone and the server probably in the US, I used to see on Facebook people say, oh, I'm enjoying Denmark, I'm enjoying Australia, it feels good here. So your information, the information between whatever you're doing, you're browsing on your device is encrypted and then securely transmitted to the other server. So the other server, the software on the other end now translates whatever you're communicating and then routes it back to. So that's why you find that Facebook will see that a lot of traffic, there's no traffic in Uganda for Facebook, but their traffic is now increasing in probably US, Europe, because we are pushing all the traffic. Like the way you're broadcasting. You're doing all your traffic, you're broadcasting from the US. So here it's not known that actually this activity is taking place. But then from the other server is when you can know that now actually, because then it becomes open traffic.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how now VPN issues came in, because people knew the government had blocked the websites.
Yeah.
So now they don't know actually that Eddie is transmitting, or whatever, or someone who uses a VPN is actually transmitting Facebook traffic.
How secure is this thing, VPN we're talking about? How secure is VPN, Adrian? We're talking about it here. Like any other good thing, there's been a lot of fear that we could be in more danger, that our data is actually being taken away, because, I mean, it's virtual private network. The guy who's running it is probably in Europe or in Australia or in Germany, he's anywhere in the world. What happened to my data when I'm very busy enjoying VPN here and thinking that I've safely landed the other side, I've navigated the path, I'm on social media network and platforms, but yet my data may not be safe? You're talking about cybersecurity as an expert.
Well, when it comes to security of your data,
on VPN particularly.
As in, it's like you're communicating with someone, you're communicating through someone that you don't know.
Yes.
You're communicating through me. You have an idea you want to communicate to the public, but you don't want to do it by yourself. You want me to do it for you. So if you don't trust me, is your data safe? Maybe you answer yourself.
Yes.
Yeah?
I don't know whether my data is safe. Yes.
It depends on the trust you have with the VPN solution provider.
Yeah.
Because definitely, if they have their agent, which picks the information that you want to broadcast from your browser or from your applications on your phone, definitely, you know, when we're installing applications on our phones, they'll ask you, do you want me to have access to your contact list? Because you'd wonder, how do these guys actually make money?
Yes, that's another question.
Yeah. Because I have access to your phone numbers and your contact list, I can sell that information. I have access to your device. I'm seated in your house. I know where your bedroom is. I know where your bathroom is. I know where your kitchen is. So I can use that information for my own. But as I'm also doing your job.
Yes.
That's why we always...
So it's really not free.
It's not free.
Yeah,
it's not free because these VPN guys, of course, they have a lot of access to data. And data is gold.
Yeah.
You know, if for example, Truecaller wants data about probably contacts for people, they could go to a VPN guy and tell him, okay, we need in Uganda, we need to know all this number belongs to this one, this number belongs to this one, so that we can use that information, load it into our server, and make our application work better. You will not know. But they will sell the information at millions of dollars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And this is where you guys come in as cybersecurity to basically try and say, we put a system in place that allow us to be able to navigate some of these things.
Exactly.
Wow.
A secure VPN would be a privately owned VPN. Like the ones we've been setting up in a couple of organizations, whereby, of course, you have your firewall, which you know actually the traffic that is going through. You have visibility, what is going on. You manage the VPN client. The client that is the software that sits on your device. It could be on your laptop. It could be on your device, your handheld device.
Wow.
Yeah.
I see so many messages, over 500 messages on the messenger. Everyone is wondering whether they're safe now. The CEO Bench is going to take a break, and when we come back, we're coming back in the last part of the show with Adrian Kamoga, who is the CEO and the founder and the CEO of Enterprise, Standard ICT Enterprise Solution in Uganda. The company that provides security, cybersecurity services in Kampala and across East Africa. Is on the CEO Bench to tell us if we're safe or not, but also nominated to come onto the CEO Bench as a young man who is doing great things. Stay right there. We're going to take a coffee break, and when we come back, the CEO Bench will dig deeper into the cybersecurity. Are we safe? What do you need to do to set what, where, and how is the service of his company actually transforming lives now that he has transformed his life, has been able to manage change? You'll pick a thing or two from there until you are able to do yours. Of course, the CEO Bench talks to people who are up on the ladder, going on top, reach top, coming down, What should we do? How should we go about it? If you are looking forward to that, this is the place for you. Be right back after the break.
People at the moment are struggling to understand the older generation because times have changed. Technology has come in.
They've moved on.
Yes.
We're the ones sitting back and wondering, what is my child on to? TikTok has surpassed WhatsApp. The other one I call, I never call it Facebook, it's Bookface. Why are you on Bookface? Dad, it's Facebook.
Yes.
Me, I keep saying, I have a foot amongst the millennials.
Yeah.
I understand the traditionalists.
Okay.
There's a song in the 60s, by the way, and in the 90s, 70s, where they're like, parents don't understand.
Yes.
Yeah, remember Prince?
Yes.
Prince.
Welcome back from that break. Edio Killer, Adrian Kamoga in the studio. This is the CEO Bench live on House of Talent Television. You can catch this on your Facebook and all our social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and of course Twitter. You will also be able to catch this on our website, House of Talent Uganda.com, right there, and you'll be amazed what you can do with yourself and the information you can get from there. The CEO Bench is talking to the CEO and the founder of the Standard ICT and Enterprise Solution Uganda, Adrian Kamoga. Adrian, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Our time is fast spent. I see a lot of requests here to bring you back to the show to continue talking about these things. We'll probably have a part 2 of this interview at some point. But Adrian, I want to go straight to this whole thing about what do you understand by risk, vulnerability, and threats in a network? A lot of times our information is stolen, and you've just talked very nicely about the VPN and now securities, and you said that you advise organizations to probably just have their own, because where their information is going, whoever is sitting is selling it. We didn't even know that. We're busy enjoying, not knowing the other person is making a killing out of us.
So actually on Monday, sorry, on Tuesday next week, I have a conference I'm organizing with one of my partners from UK. And we are teaching our customers on how to manage IoT. You know, now vulnerabilities means, of course, risk. Everyone understands risk. Yeah. You know, the probability that probably something would go wrong. Yeah. Yeah. Now the vulnerabilities are the weaknesses. The weaknesses. Now the weaknesses within an organization. Like I said previously, that you've closed your door, but your window is open. That's a vulnerability. You might think the thief is going to pass through the door. Probably they'll pass through the window. Yeah. You could, I had an interesting training in Nairobi, and one guy said, I lock my door like we've locked the door, but then we keep the keys inside there. We're doing something on HSM. And I realized that actually you are supposed to close the door and keep the keys in a secure lock, which also has another key. You know? So that means vulnerabilities in a network. A network is a communication of devices within an organization. Yeah. So vulnerabilities are many, many. Actually, we have solutions that are specifically looking at vulnerabilities within a network. It could be an update, a security update in your Windows machine, is we always have pop-ups on our devices that say, oh, update your Windows, latest updates. And you don't want to be disturbed, you don't want to restart your machine, you're being so busy. But between that gap that you've not actually updated your latest security settings to what Microsoft has released, could be a vulnerability. You know, now we have Internet of Things. You know, bring your own device in an organization. Eddie comes from his home. He carries he has antivirus on his device or his computer. Of course, there's a firewall that secures communication to the internet world. And of course, like we say, there are different layers of security within a network. Yeah. So, but you bring your device, your phone in an organization, it doesn't have an antivirus, but then you want to be on Facebook. Definitely you want to access the corporate network, you know? And now we have also, now that becomes a vulnerability, because a hacker will go through your phone and be able now to access the internal network of the organization, because your phone has not been secured. And it has access to the network. So someone uses your device to connect now to the corporate network. We have Internet of Things, whereby now we could have smart doors. Our printers are smart. They could tell you on your email that your toner is out. We have smart lights, smart curtains. So when someone says smart, that means that device is actually intelligent in a certain way. So how to be intelligent? Definitely it has to be connected, interconnected within the network. Yeah. So how can you load a security software in a door? These are devices that come with very small memories with just for a particular functionality. So now we've grown into, of course, before it was bring your own device, like last year. Security now was at a level of, now how do we manage bring your own device in an organization, whereby Eddie was able to bring his laptop and work within our organization. Now we have Internet of Things. Now we have devices connecting to the internet. You have your door and it's connecting to the internet. You can imagine. So someone can be able to use the door and now connect to your internal network, because your door is connecting to the external world. So vulnerabilities are so many. I can only mention but a few. Wow. Within an organization. Even actually employees have vulnerabilities. Yeah. And we have, last year we launched a product called, it's about giving information to now staff training, giving them security trainings. Yeah. Because someone sends you a phishing email on your email, so you should be able to identify that probably this email is CEO fraud. Yeah. Eddie is the CEO. They're telling Eddie, I have actually a company that lost almost $500,000. They rushed to me and they said, oh, we have lost, the accountant transferred money to a wrong, because the accountant was sent an email and was told that, oh, we've changed our account number, everything looks genuine, the email address, of course, they masquerade. The email address looks like it's coming from the other organization that genuinely actually supplies the machines. Yes. Now it comes and they target the accountant, the financial controller, and they tell him, oh, we've changed the account details, please find the attached new account details. He never had the information to verify. He could have picked a phone call and called the other guys and said, oh, I've received an email from you and saying that you've changed your account details. Is this true? He just went through and transferred the money. It's true. It happens. It happened. So when they told us to come in and try to solve them, I told them, well, the money was already transferred. We cannot bring it back. So we can only educate the guys on how to identify such cases in the future. Wow. Yeah. Wow. So that is also a vulnerability. People are also vulnerabilities within an organization. Wow. Yeah.
Well, we're talking to Adrian Kamoga. If you're watching the show, so CEO Bench, this particular show is talking to a tech founder and CEO of a tech company that is providing cybersecurity services and products to solve, problems in the market. You've just heard about that. 500 million is quite a lot of money for an organization to lose. It's
$500,000.
$500,000. Yeah. $500,000. Yes,
wow, they were purchasing machines for agriculture.
Wow.
The tractors.
And that's it. The organization
Yeah.
may not be able to recover from that because, you know,
Of course,
there
there's a
was
loss.
a problem. Yes. Adrian, as we wind up the show, we want to just, you know, talk to you about this, you know, how can I identify the theft and be prevented, given this that you've talked about?
Yeah.
What is, in a nutshell, how can we do this as we wind up the show? Because I know so many people are asking the same question.
Well, what we've been advocating of recent within organization is is information, knowing if I'm doing a VPN connection, I need to understand actually how does the VPN connection work.
Yeah.
Then I'm able to now know whether if I'm doing my online banking, I will turn on my VPN.
Yeah.
Because when I turn on my VPN, if the other guy wants to know my username and password for my banking, that's why I think some banks have tried to block the applications. If you have your VPN turned on your device and you want to do a transfer, it will not work. It will be blocked because they don't understand the transaction. They will block it. Yeah. If they see any traffic going to the website and they don't understand it, they'll block it. So, because if the guy has a client on your device, they have access to your browsing history. Yeah. They have access to your browsing content, you know, so they can be able to get your username and password. So you need to know, people need to be more vigilant when it comes to information. You need to ask questions. People need to ask questions, you know, within an organization. Even if someone is bringing a solution and they want to enroll it, as an individual, you need to ask questions. Yeah. But then we also want to go into training. Organizations need to train. Okay, already we have done a couple of customers whereby we have solutions that we give classes, automatic classes. People are able to enroll, study, understand this cybersecurity thing. How can I be hacked? And what does hacking mean? How do I differentiate emails that are actually phishing from genuine emails? Yeah. You know, they give that bit of, because this education is not given in schools. You don't teach an accountant on cybersecurity because that's not their business. But actually an accountant would be an vulnerability within an organization and thousands of dollars would be stolen. Yeah. You know, so you need to ask questions, you need to educate yourself. Don't just go into a space that you don't understand. You know, you say, oh, now I don't want to keep my data on my device, I want to go to cloud. You know, I used to ask my customers that ask Microsoft, you're shifting your emails from your old email server, which sits in your office. Now Microsoft saying, oh, now we want to own your emails. We want you to do Office 365. You should ask questions. And when you ask questions, then they will give you the level of security that they provide. Because now you might need another vendor to come in and actually secure your traffic to Microsoft, because Microsoft's focus is availability, making sure your email is delivered to the recipient. You know, and they give you some bit of basic security, but now if you become a target, becomes the problem. Yeah. If someone says, I want Eddie, I want to know who he communicates to, which kind of information, which people he loves more, because they will go for them. You know, that is now when they will know, they will say, okay, we want to understand, I want to understand the level of in detail, you know, in detail. Don't just go for a space you don't understand. That is now the vigilancy that I want people to get into, but people need to read. Yeah. Cyber security information is all over the internet. We're in the cyber world whereby you just go on Google and say, okay, how can I secure my device? And someone say, okay, you should have antivirus on your device. You should have, don't use a VPN which is open. I don't use an open VPN on my device. I have an antivirus on my device, and I pay for the VPN because I know I can fully trust the vendor who's manning my VPN. Yeah. Their business is not, it's security, it's not theft. But don't hand over your data to someone you don't understand.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
The CEO Bench is coming to a close today, and it's been an amazing interview with Mr. Kamoga right here. and you need to check them out and probably secure your company with them, secure your home or your personal data with them. Mr. Kamoga, let's talk about in a quick, what is the black hat and what is the white hat and the gray hat hackers? We've had this thing before. I mean, if I'm starting a small company and I don't know what these things really mean, it can be a problem for me. If you can wind up with that and then also tell us, you know, how often should we be able to perform this patch management that we're talking about as we talk about cybersecurity? Yes, in transforming, in helping us transform from, you know, where we are and where you want us to be. We're talking about now the transformational, you know, leadership approach to things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to hacking, of course, that's a whole topic we can discuss for the whole day. One of the services we provide at Standard ICT is penetration testing and vulnerability assessment. Of course, in levels of security, we have what we call governance and compliance, whereby probably Bank of Uganda would say, you're a bank, you host people's information, so you need to run an audit, a penetration audit. Actually in Uganda it's done twice. Every bank has to do twice a year. In Kenya it's done once, and other countries, of course every country has its own policy. So now when it comes to penetration testing, we actually become the thieves. Because we want to go on the other side and know if someone wants to steal information from this bank, how would they do it? So we have, of course, we have tools, we have softwares that we use to do actually the assessment, and then we present you a report. So now it comes to white, gray, white. Of course, the white, for us we are white. We don't do the bad guy stuff. Yeah. Yes. Yes. And then the bad guys on the dark side. Okay. Yes, they come to steal.
Dark web.
Yes, they come to steal. For us, we come to identify and advise you that, when all the guys are left the office, there's a port you leave open and you don't supposed to leave it open. Okay, let me call it a window. There's a window in your server room or in your office that you always leave open. So guys can actually know that no one is looking, and now they can come in. So then we tell you, okay, now what you need to do is to always, when you're leaving, close this door. Yeah, so we do that assessment and then we give you a thorough report. Wow. Yeah.
And that said, looking at your organization.
So on the dark web,
yes,
dark web is where the bad guys are.
Okay.
Guys who are doing, of course, if someone steals your information, they will not sell it on the open web. They'll go where the bad guys are. So actually, guys, on the dark web, you need a membership. They have specific browsers that they use to access the dark web, and you need to be known. Yeah? And you need to be invisible, because you're going to be selling narcotics, guns, what? Actually, CIA is it CIA or in the US? They actually use the dark web to catch the bad guys. They become the members in the dark web. Okay. You know, that's how they were able to get some guys who was, because now we are going into cryptocurrency. Yeah. Whereby now I can transact with you. No one will know that I'm transacting with you because I'm going to use the digital currency. I send to you direct because they're removing the third party, because always the government looks, you know, to do the controls. Yeah. But now someone can be able to transfer some money and purchase something using digital currency. We'll get into that space maybe at a later stage.
Wow. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Adrian, for coming to the program today. We want to just wind up with a last question going forward.
You said patching, vulnerabilities.
Yes. How do
patch
we
management,
perform patch management? Yes.
Patch management is, of course, like when it comes to, I don't do software development. That's not my niche. Yeah. No worries, guys. When it comes to campus, they say, oh, to be an IT guy, you have to be a software developer. Me, I'm an expert in my niche. Yeah. I am an expert in partnerships. I do partnership business strictly. So when it comes to patch management is that, of course, you could be running a certain software within your organization. Yeah. So the developer definitely, we have softwares that do vulnerability scans. Yeah. So it could be an independent audit that we did an independent audit and we said, okay, your programmer who's doing your your core banking solution is to patch up these things. So now patch management is now when the provider of that software has sent an update.
Yeah.
Like probably Microsoft has sent an update.
Yeah.
So patch management would know that this update has come. It downloads, the software downloads it into probably a certain section within your organization, and then is able to send now automatically to those devices that need to be patched. That's patch management.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Adrian, thank you very much. And finally, we have come to the end of this show today.
Yeah,
we want to say thank you very much. And from change management, leadership, change management, and transformation, how do you see your organization turning around lives in either individual lives and then corporation lives? And where do we see the standard ICT solution in the next, 10, 15, 20 years? What legacy would you like to leave behind?
I would definitely, as a businessman, I would want to leave a very good food stamp.
Yes.
I remember in 2015,
Yeah.
I launched an endpoint security solution, and I partnered with guys from Romania, and we launched it. As of now, we've grown the numbers from just $1,000 to almost $500,000. That is the money that is going to the vendor.
Okay.
So I would want to, of course, introduce solutions for different problems that are, of course, are going to be here. Like the products I've introduced in Uganda. They are there. Even if I'm not there, they're going to be there for life.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what leadership abilities or development have you put in place to see that these people are developing and they can move forward? Can this organization run beyond you? Can your son or your daughter take over?
Yeah. Like you've seen, I think you've visited us sometime, you've seen that we have structures. Yeah, we have structures, and we've put in place who does what, which section does this. And of course that has evolution. That in case a head of sales goes, we can be able to hire another head of sales, and probably the sales of the company still grow. And of course, if I retire as a CEO, I could be able to train someone. I should have put in place systems that can be that can be taken over by another person.
Wow.
Yeah, not me. Actually, I always travel over the world, and my business still goes on. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
And finally, where do you see the future of the ICT in Uganda or in Africa as a continent? Are we ready for it? Where the world is going? Are we ready? And if not, what kind of infrastructure do we need to put in place? You keep talking about infrastructure.
Well, you see, I think there's been a lot of growth and transformation. I appreciate the work National IT Authority is doing, and also, of course, they come up with policies that people are supposed to comply with. When it comes to with cybersecurity, like I said, we have a layer of compliance and governance, whereby government will come up with policies and say, okay, we need you, each and every person should have at least a basic thing, which is antivirus on their devices. Because at the national level, they have what we call cyber threat intelligence, whereby I think UCC has a solution. Because I remember I was involved in that tender for procurement of a cyber threat intelligence solution, whereby we could be able to identify this is the new attack, it's coming from Russia, it's attacking our bank here, then they could be able to block that traffic at a national level.
Okay.
Well, the government is doing something. But then also, as individuals, like I said, we need to also be vigilant. Because the government will not be able to understand which new VPN client has come up, or which new VPN solution has come up, probably because they will not know. But for you, go ahead and download it and install it on your device. And then you trust transacting. You actually go to, then you say, oh, I've stolen money from my account. Oh, my information was stolen. Oh, I see nudes on social media. People steal nudes from people's devices, and actually they ask for a pay. Someone says, if you don't give me $100,000, I'm going to publish your nonsense on the cyberspace. you know. So people need to be vigilant. But of course, the government is also doing something.
Okay.
The guys we work with, the enterprise space, of course, because they hire the intelligence guys, the guys who have done now specifically cybersecurity, now know which measures that they need to implement within organizations. Of course, it also depends on the budget they have available. But of course, I think for the time I've been in the cyberspace in Uganda, for the last couple of years, I would say, because right now, on average, almost every corporate organization, at least they have an antivirus solution. They have a firewall. At least they can understand how a firewall works. Which that is good. It's a good level.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Adrian. And to all of you guys watching the show from all across the world, we would like to say thank you. I would like to just sample some of your questions here, if there are any. Mulunji Sarah said, "Wow, an amazing watching this." And of course, Murinda, all the way in Dubai. Murinda, thank you very much. I have Grace NL who say, "These points are so refreshing. We are proud of you, Adrian, for keeping your heads up." And of course, Matovo Lawrence says, "An amazing discussion right there." And he says, "I'm very proud of you, Adrian." And I see my friends from the outside countries in the US, Anthony, thank you very much, says, "This has been an amazing show. I stayed up late to watch this program and I think I love it. I wish Uganda could have more of this kind of young people coming and having a very fantastic discussion like this." And says that gentleman breaks the ICT down to a border level. That is a good thing. Most ICT fellows are always talking top things and they forget about that. Some of the threats that he talked about and risk are usually your border rider, because whenever your border man is carrying you, you are busy releasing information to them. Thank you very much, Dan, all the way in the US. And today we have my brother from another mother, Moses in Sweden, says, "I stayed up to watch the show." Adrian, thank you very much. I think I was in Matovo in St. Henry's Matovo with that gentleman. He's been always an amazing guy. Thank you very much. Shout out to him. And you've got a lot of people watching the show. So all of you guys, we want to say thank you very much. The program has come to an end. Adrian, what's your last word to the people who nominated you to come onto this program? If you look into that camera, what would you say to them?
I would say thank you for trusting me. Of course, definitely I would thank my customers, people who have entrusted their security in our hands. Well, every time I walk into my customer's office and I say, okay, now this is the new thing that we have, I always have a positive response from my customers. Either we don't have a budget now, but let's provision for it. And they will definitely always provision for it. I thank my customers. Thank you for supporting Standard ICT. Please always look out to us in case of any solutions that you need. But I also thank the entire audience. Thank you for watching me. And I hope to be back here maybe next time so that we can try and break whatever we've discussed into more detail so that people can be able to understand.
Wow.
Yes, I thank you, Eddie, for hosting me. And I look forward to more discussions with your audience.
Well, thank you very much. And to us here, we want to say thank you to all of you. Thank you, Adrian, and thank you, everybody, for being a part of the CEO Bench Growing Bigger and Better. The CEO Bench strictly operates with votes. Vote for whoever you want to see on the CEO Bench. The highest person with the vote will come on the show. And next week, we dive into bringing you a man who came into the space of, of running hotels. He's had the highest votes. Is the general manager of Sheraton Kampala and of course the Apollo hotels all across the East Africa. He will be on the show here, and of course we're going to have a very fantastic discussion. It's got over 150 votes coming through, so you too can nominate somebody you want to see on the CEO Bench, and our job is to bring that person on the bench. Until then, we want to say thank you, and to the crew and to the team here that makes these pictures look good, amazing, and all the mistakes and success and everything that we have on the show, we want to say thank you to them. To everybody, shout out to all of you guys, and please share that link far and wide to your friends, and of course, make sure everybody is secure and don't be left out in the dark web. Be in the white web so that you can be part of the solution. Until then, we're saying shout out to you and goodbye.
people at the moment are struggling to understand the older generation because times have changed. Technology has come in.
They've moved on.
Yes.
We're the ones sitting back and wondering, what is my child on to? TikTok has surpassed WhatsApp. The other one I call, I never call it Facebook, it's Bookface. Why are you on Bookface? Dad, it's Facebook.
Yes.
Me, I keep saying, I have a foot amongst the millennials.
Yeah.
And I understand the traditionalists.
Okay.
There's a song in the 60s, by the way, and in the 90s, 70s, where they're like, parents don't understand.
Yes.
Yeah, remember Prince?
Yes.
Prince.
Hello, welcome to the Creative Industry Talk. This is House of Talent Television and my name is Eddie Okila. Welcome to the program. My guest this morning is a man who has been here, is the man who is a senior man in the industry, in the creative industry, is a legend by his own standing and by his own rights, the man who has been doing it. Jeremy Byemanzi is joining me again this morning together with Richard Tuwanje, who is going to be joining us on the show to discuss the one very important part of this creative industry talk. And we're talking about how to foster creativity within our organization for business success. How do we foster it? We talked about it last week, and Jeremy is joining me again to have this discussion. Jeremy, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
How are you doing? No, you have to spread love. Yes, you have to spread love.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thank you so much for having me once again.
You're super welcome. First of all, to start with Jeremy, how was your week?
Oh, I had a great week.
Yeah.
Lots of work, very busy. Birthday week, so I had lots of love from my family and friends, so I had a good time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And welcome back to the program. Talking
you.
about the show last week, we got a lot of people who, you know, were very excited with what you delivered on the show last week, and they were saying that they felt like this conversation needs to continue, and they gave ideas on what kind of topics to discuss, and I says, can you serialize this thing and make it continue going? I said, well, we will try our best.
Okay.
And today on the show, we want to discuss how do we foster creativity within our business. And I want to start with the first question, Jeremy.
Okay.
First, to give you the context of this entire discussion,
All right.
we're looking at the businesses as an attractive way of doing things. Creativity as in a business as an attractive way of doing things. And we always looked at creativity as a way of inspiring people into the product, recruiting consumers into the product, introducing the brand to people. And somebody actually said, Jeremy needs to break down what is a brand and what is a product and what's the difference between the two. Because we often talk about these things interchangeably, but we don't know which one is more important and which one is not.
Okay.
And so people want to break that down today. And we say that creativity helps us to find solutions and also to find opportunities that allows business to grow.
Grow, yes.
And this week on the show, we want to look at some of the reasons where some people actually prosper in business, either individually or as a corporate or, you know, collectively, but they prosper when they think creatively, when they think in a much more better ways that make things easier for everyone to consume that product. So to start with, Jeremy, we want to just start from that question that came from the person, that what is the difference between a brand and a product? You have been doing this for a while now.
Yeah.
And you've worked with the likes of QG such and such. You move along, started Nomad.
Yes.
And it's a known story altogether. You have a new journey starting right now.
Yes.
And then somebody says, how does it mix the two things between being a creative mind and a pastor at the same time? Those are the second question we're going to go to. But we'll start with, the difference between a brand and a product. Is there a difference?
Okay, thank you. Yes, there certainly is a difference.
Yeah.
But you could say that every product is a brand in a way.
Okay.
Because what happens is that when you put out a product on the market, let's say you put out sugar, people need to identify your sugar by a certain name.
Yes.
So when I walk into the supermarket and I ask for sugar, they need to say, what sugar do you want? That's the first question they'll ask you. Or they'll bring you the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
So they will bring you either Kakira sugar, or they'll bring you Chinyara sugar, or any other sugar brand.
Yes.
Because that is the brand name.
Yes.
Okay? So when you think of a product, you have to think about how have you packaged the product.
Yeah.
And that packaging, that name that you've given it is the brand name. Okay? That's for the product. It can apply for a service as well. However, when you look at the word brand, last week I said that brand is a reputation.
Yeah.
Okay? So really, you can have a particular brand of sugar which has a certain reputation in the market.
Yeah.
Yeah? And so that's how the word brand can apply on both phases.
Wow. So Jeremy, when you say it will have a reputation, how do we get to the reputation? Is it the fact that the name of this brand we're talking about has been overly talked about? I want to break it down to a border man, or to a taxi driver, or to a normal consumer down there who consumes some of this product.
Yes.
How do we become a reputation? Or at what point does it become a reputation? Is it the more time it's talked about? Is it the more people know about it? How does it become a reputation?
Okay. One of my favorite speakers, a gentleman called Chris Vallotton,
Yes.
says, your repetition becomes your reputation.
Okay.
Okay? Your repetition.
Yeah.
So when you do something continuously over and over again, that becomes your reputation.
Yes.
Now, I'll give you an example. Unfortunately, we're going to have to talk about milkshakes.
No problem.
Okay?
Wow.
So, I love Cafe Javas.
Yes,
okay?
yes,
If there's one restaurant where I can take a friend and know I'll get a good service, it is
Yes,
CJ's.
yes.
And every time I have a friend coming into the country, the first place I'll take them to eat out is Cafe Javas, because I know that 9 out of 10 times, actually 10 out of 10 times, the food will come on time, it will be hot, it will be big, and they will not be disappointed.
Yes.
They have mastered the art of doing that consistently. It has become their reputation.
Wow.
So it has become their brand.
Yeah.
So when an unfortunate story comes up, whether true or not, about something in their milkshake,
Yes.
so many customers will go on Twitter and will defend them like they own the business.
Yeah.
They are not being paid, but they know that this brand stands for something, and they are willing to lay down their reputation on social media to defend Cafe Javas.
Yes.
Why? They have a reputation, they have a reputable brand. Yeah.
Wow. Well, you've heard it from Jeremy, and thank you very much for joining us on the Creative Industry Talk. My name is Eddie Okela, Jeremy Byemanzi. If you're just joining us, we are live from all across the world. We're live on Facebook, on YouTube, House of Talent TV on YouTube. Go to our studio and be part of that. Subscribe and be part of the family growing bigger and better. We're live on Facebook, of course, House of Talent Uganda. Go there and share that link as far as wide as possible. And of course, if you're a fan of Jeremy Byemanzi, what you need to do is go and tag all your friends and say he's now live, and he's going to talk live to people. Jeremy is going to be speaking live to all of us when we talk about the brand and how do we foster creativity within our businesses, our organization, or even as an individual for business success. We're talking about business. Jeremy, we went into the lockdown.
Yes.
And when we went into a lockdown, a lot of businesses have suffered. Coming back from lockdown and coming back from the pandemic situation has been such a big challenge to so many businesses across the world. A lot of businesses are closing down. A lot of companies are closing down. In Uganda, we have seen, for example, this week where the traders are sitting down and saying rent is becoming rent, and I cannot rent a space for my business anymore. I'm not making money.
Yeah.
And the landlords are saying, well, I need my money because this is a space you have been occupying this space, and I need the money. So there's a gridlock. I was watching the story coming from Nigeria is the same. South Africa is the same. You go to the north part of Africa is the same. World over, this is the situation. How can businesses begin to think about the creative ways to foster creativity, using creativity to foster, what I would call success to come through in this pandemic situation?
Okay. One of the things I've been musing on is what really is business.
Yes. That's another good question, actually.
Yeah. Business really is an exchange of value.
Yeah.
You have a product of value, and there is a market that needs that product. Okay? So, one of my coaches, who is actually my pastor, says that the business is not the product. Yeah, this is Apostle Moses Mukisa.
Yes.
The business is the market. So you can have a product and not have a market. When you think you have a business, you don't. Yeah. So usually, when you say business is good, it means that you have been able to transfer your product to the market, and the value equivalent to that product has gone in the opposite direction. So goods and services go that way. Financial resources equivalent to that product go that way. That's when you say you have done business.
Yes.
Okay. So the question is, what do you need for that exchange to happen?
Yeah.
Do you need an office? Do you need an internet connection? Do you need a website? What do you need for value to exchange?
Yeah.
If you can crack that question, you will know what you need to make your business successful. Now, ordinarily, people will look at a business as successful if it has premises. So what happens is that people get up in the morning, they leave their homes in their cars, and they go to work. And then from work, at the end of the day, they go back home. Okay? Now when lockdown happened, that changed. People woke up in the morning and picked up their phones. They went to work on their phones. They went to work on their computers. They stayed in the same spaces at home. Even their children went to school within the same spaces. And that completely disorganized our understanding of work. Okay? Because that meant that you can no longer call your wife and say, I'm still at work.
She's probably seated next
to you. You know. So then it called for a change of mindset. Because when you go to work, you're going to deliver your service. Patrick Pitatoué likes to say that every person is an entrepreneur. Every person is a business. You are providing your value to your boss in your company for a salary which he gives you monthly or weekly, depending on your arrangement. So you are an individual business. Okay?
Because you're providing service.
Yes, because you're providing a service. It doesn't matter whether you have an employer's ID, employee's ID. So now the thinking is that you have to say, how do I get my service or my product to my customer who is my boss? You know, do I have to go and sit for 8 hours in his office and work there? Those are the questions you have to ask yourself. When you crack that question, you will know how to do this. So definitely the pandemic has disorganized very many people's thinking, business in general. And we have to be creative enough to adapt.
Wow. Well, you are on the Creative Industry Talk. My name is Eddie Okello once again, and Jeremy Biemanzi. I think that I like what you're saying, Jeremy. And we want to hear from the people out there. What is your thought about the definition of business that Jeremy has just given? Do you understand when we talk about business? Sometimes the general term of business, we forget that you yourself were a business. Now it brings me to a point of product, Jeremy. You have defined business in a very simple term. Let's talk about the product. If I'm an individual, am I a product or am I a business? Because that's another thing that people don't understand normally. You have worked in the creative industry for a very long time. You have been helping brands and products go out there, or put their products there. Certainly you have a very good understanding of what business is when we talked about business, and you explained it. But what about product? If an individual like Okello, is Okello a product or Okello a business? How do I even know to separate the two, and how do I sell my services? Like you said, Patrick Pitatoué said that every time you go to work in the morning, whether you have an ID, whether you're a sweeper or you clean the toilets, or you clean the washroom, whatever it is you call it, or the kitchen,
Yeah.
there is a certain money being given to you
Yes.
in exchange for your
Services,
there.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you do that, that's business already. You yourself, you're already doing business. But
Yeah.
you often think that business is about trading, you know, getting one product, eggs to the market, I sell, I come back, that is it. Is an individual a business or a product?
I think that maybe I may throw in another word.
Yes.
Every person
Yes.
is building a brand, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
And because you are building a reputation, you have a reputation in the industry.
Yeah.
Now, if I have a reputation of being efficient at work, efficiency is one of my brand values. It's a reputation I've built over time because they know if I give Jeremy this work, he's efficient, he will get it out. Okay? So that becomes my brand. Now, I am offering my service to House of Talent. Okay? I may be an employee, but I'm offering my service. So I'm looking at myself as an individual brand, offering my service to House of Talent for a certain fee. That is how you need to look at yourself. So you build your reputation with that in mind. You know, I must build a reputation of being efficient at work, a good communicator. I must be able to deliver value to my boss so that he feels that, yes, I have an asset in Jeremy. That's number one. Number two, what is the product or the service I'm delivering to my boss? He has hired me as a creative director, for example. That means he has certain expectations of me. Am I meeting those expectations? Am I exceeding them? That's the second thing. Yeah. So you have to think on those two planes.
Yes.
Yeah. There's some people who are very good at their work, but they're always late.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
So how do you deal with that, with such a person? You know, I like this person. He's such a good person, good character, but he'll always come late. I can't count on him to be here at 8 a.m. in the morning. So there are all those things you have to think about.
And reliability is quite very important in business when you talk about business. Well, we are talking about how do we use creativity to foster, you know, success within our organizations and for us to be able to make money. It boils down to one thing, money. One time I listened to Apostle Moses Mukisa talk. He used to have this thing every Thursday that used to run on Facebook during the main lockdown of 2020.
Yes.
And there was this one thing he says, if you want to know how things are bad or you want to know how well you are doing business-wise, he says, every time I used to go to ShopRite or Game, I'll enter the supermarket and there were 22 tills or 23 tills in that supermarket. It says you go to Game. Now, there will be people lining, but there's always a unique sound that is being made. Going peeping. He says that peeping sound, every time it drops in, there is money has entered. A product has been sold. Somebody has scanned that product.
Money has gone to South Africa.
Money has gone to South Africa or to somebody. Yes, as long as that sold, money has gone. So he says, I kept paying attention. Then I realized that it was consistent and it wasn't stopping. He says, beep, beep, beep. So he says, that's the number. Then he says, let me stop and ask you, how many times does yours peep in a month or in a week? When you're thinking, if you have a product, how many times is your product peeping that thing? I started thinking about it. Says, actually, come to think about it. When you go to the supermarket, you never think about these things. But those are products created by so many people and they're being consumed by so many people. Is your product making its way into the supermarket? Certainly not. If it's not making it, it's what Jeremy is saying. How do you foster creativity to make sure that your gorillas or your banana crisps or whatever, or your chikapo that you're making there is actually able to make its way there, and also you can be part of that sound going on. Jeremy, that said, before we take a break, I want to take you straight to my next question, which is how can an organization improve creativity within itself for success? We've seen so many organizations failed and so many individuals fail organizations. Like you said, coming late is failure, meaning you cannot deliver.
I think it can be done in every department, but the good place to start is culture. because every organization has a culture, organizational culture like we call it. And so it's important to stop and think and say, what is the culture of my organization and what have I developed? How do we work? What do people out there think of us? You know? What do our customers think of us as an organization? Everything that they think about you, the way you work, the way you operate, the way you deliver your services and your product really is the culture you've built. Yeah? Now you've heard the very common saying that culture, it's strategy, it's culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah.
Meaning that you can have all these strategies to deliver a service, but at the end of the day, your culture rules the day. It controls how you proceed. So how do you start? One, ask yourself, what kind of culture do we have? And you can get your staff members together and just begin to talk about that. Ask questions. What is our attitude towards customers? Do we have a culture of creativity? How can we foster a culture of creativity? Last week I talked about the 4 zones. I talked about the creativity zone, I talked about the comfort zone, I talked about the costing zone,
yes.
And the comfort, creativity, costing, and there's a 4th one, growth.
Growth. No, growth. The staying zone? The staying zone?
I'll remember.
Yes.
I'll remember. So creativity zone, you attempt to think the way you've not thought before.
Yes, yes.
So in that zone, that's where you challenge yourselves. For example, I can challenge myself and say, this is the work I do. I'm a creative director. This is how I approach it. How can I do it differently to make it more efficient? How can I use less time to do more? And I spend time thinking, and I spend time reading online about different people in my field and how they do it. Those things help you change, you know? The other thing is to say, how can I be more efficient by working through others? You see? Because you can't win if you're doing everything yourself. You have to find a way of working through other people. Yeah. So those are some of the things, and we'll keep talking about it as we go along.
Wow. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Creative Industry Talk will continue, and Jeremy will be diving into the next question of how can we foster creativity in an organization, in our organization, or in an organization for business growth. If you have an organization, Jeremy has already touched it, but what culture do you have in that organization? If you're starting a company and your company is coming up, perhaps you need to start with a culture that is, this is how we are going to operate here as a company, this is what we are going to do. Stay right there, we'll be right back after this coffee break, and Jeremy will be talking more about that. This is the coffee break.
Young people at the moment are struggling to understand the older generation because times have changed. Technology has come in.
They've moved on.
Yes.
We're the ones sitting back and wondering, what is my child on to? TikTok has surpassed WhatsApp. The other one I call, I never call it Facebook, it's Bookface. Why are you on Bookface? Dad, it's Facebook.
Yes.
Me, I keep saying, I have a foot amongst the millennials.
Yeah.
I understand the traditionalists.
Okay.
There's a song in the 60s, by the way, and in the 90s, 70s, where they're like, parents don't understand.
Yes.
Remember Prince?
Yes.
Prince.
Welcome back from that break, and of course when we went for a break you heard what Faizo and Musta was talking about, the creative spaces in Kampala, creative space in Uganda. It's the first time we're actually having creative spaces. Jeremy, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
we're talking about creative spaces. A few years ago, people could not get into restaurants to sit and do work unless you dress in a certain way, but creative people like to dress in a certain way and express themselves in a certain way. They have to be in a, what most are called a zone, and in most cases when they're in that zone, they look like they are not people who can be accepted in certain areas. And so there are now creative spaces in Uganda. Talking of that as a business, what do you think about the new creative spaces where the hub has come up with a place where people can go and sit and create and think creatively and come up with a product? Faizo is saying, I've bought a whole island of 100 acres. I'm going to put, you can leave Kampala and you go and sit there and brainstorm and speak with the wilds and whatever it is and come up with a product. What do you think of that as a creative person?
I absolutely love it.
Why do you think we should have that?
I think it's great because it fosters a culture of creativity. And if you create a space which enables people to think and thrive, that's a bonus. Before I started working officially, I used to do a lot of freelance work. And as a young freelancer, my laptop was on my back. And I didn't have an internet connection. I didn't have an office desk. It was difficult for me to work at home. So what I did is I would go and sit in a restaurant, buy some tea or breakfast, and ask for a Wi-Fi password. And then I would sit there and have my breakfast slowly. You know, as I did my work and I sent work to clients and everything, you know. But before long, lunchtime, it would be lunchtime, you know. And they would
be forced to eat also.
They would bring you a lunch menu. You see what I mean? So when you find a space where people can come and sit and pay for a full day.
10,000, I'm told.
Yes, you see, that is creativity. Because the owner of this building or the owner of this space knows that people, there's a certain segment of the market that can't afford to rent a premises per square meter or 10 square meters or 100 square meters and pay monthly and bring their own furniture, their own internet connection, carpeting, light and everything, a working bathroom, and then lunch for staff members. So they think about it creatively and they say, how many people can this space take? 100 people per day. Okay, good. If each of those people pays 10,000 per day, and they come and have access to the internet and a nice chair and a desk and a good environment where they can concentrate and deliver. That is brilliant. That is creativity in the workplace.
Wow. Jeremy, we went for a break. We were asking you a question about how can you, the person, or can me, the person, or can we, the people, you know, foster creativity within an organization for business success. Most times organizations are known for killing people's creativity. And sometimes they're saying you're not being more productive, but your productivity is severely limited by the fact that the person who is, or the culture of the organization does not have room for people to be creative. How can we start to be creative to allow success to come, so that if I work in that organization, I'm able to ask for salary which is commensurate to my service being given to the organization, as opposed to me demanding for more salary. I'm sure you've been employing people, and there are people who are demanding for more money, yet their value, what they are giving to the company, is not commensurate to what they are asking. Yes.
I think it's a case of, as an individual, you should be in a space which allows you to be creative. If you have chosen to be in a specific workplace and that is not accepted, that flexibility is not accepted, then unfortunately you have to subject yourself to the rules that govern that organization. You can't bring your own way of working in a particular organization. What you can do, however, is you can show your employer that with this kind of flexibility, you're able to deliver more value to the organization and save them more time. For example, there's been a lot of conversation about working from home. It has its advantages and its disadvantages. And as a result of working from home, so many people have come up with all sorts of apps that they can use to connect with workmates who are working virtually. And that's how Zoom and all these other softwares have come up. But what that does is that when somebody is working from home, if they can be productive, It saves the organization a lot. It saves you lunch. You don't have to buy lunch for the employees. They're at home. It will even save you space, you know, because when you have people in a specific space, they need to eat, they need to use the bathroom, you have the AC has to be running the whole day. There are certain costs it saves you as an organization. So you have to ask yourself, what is the trade-off? You know, having these people in this space together, or having them working from wherever they work and being more efficient. Those are the things you have to discuss and agree on.
Well, Jeremy, that's a good one. But the point here, there's a certain also situation we're dealing with where a person is working from home and their productivity is not coming
very low.
They're not being very productive. You're waiting for this work and tasks given to them to be delivered, and it's not coming on time.
Yeah.
And on the other side of the fence is the client who is saying, I need this at this time.
Yes.
I don't have it in this time, your contract will be cancelled, or we shall defer your contract, or we shall deduct from your contract.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? And there's that. Many organizations haven't yet, sort of like figure that out on how to deal with it. Big corporations perhaps are doing that.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that the person that you are employing, that you want to work out from home, continue to be more creative and more productive in their workspace from their sitting room, without them having to cheat you the hours that you're paying them a week or a month?
So the question is, do you pay for time or you pay for output?
That's another thing, because we have got to that point where they say, you are not seeing you in the office in the morning, and the person is saying, but I have come, I've finished my job. Whether I start at 4 o'clock, what you're interested for is I have finished this job.
Yeah, because you see, I can come to work.
Yes.
And this is what happens in many offices.
Yeah.
Somebody walks in 8 or 8:15, or someone's supposed to be there like 8:30.
Yes.
They'll come in like 8:45.
Yeah.
Then they'll make tea between 8:45 and 9. Okay? Then they will send the tea girl, or they'll run to the nearest supermarket to buy some samosas and chapati. Okay? Then they will have tea. Then those days people used to read the morning papers. So they'll read the morning newspaper.
Yes.
Okay? Or they'll go onto Facebook, or they'll go to ESPN to check the results of Leeds versus Manchester United previously, and and follow what's happening and rewatch the highlights of the game and have conversation amongst themselves
Before they start working on your time.
Now they came at 8:30.
Yes.
In that time, they've used the internet, they've made tea, they've turned on the computers,
They've gone to the washroom.
they've gone to the washroom and flushed, and then they'll start work.
Yes.
8:30. 9:30,
Yes.
9:30 or 10.
1 hour of just
1 hour
everything
later.
is-
Okay? Now, in some government offices, I'm told, people even put their jackets on their seats and go away.
Go away and do other things.
You see?
We've seen those.
So they say, he's in the building, he's in the building, Okay?
Yes.
So now, that is organizational culture. Okay? So you can have somebody in, he has clocked in, but this person, when he arrives, he clocks in and says, I was here at 8:15.
Because the culture says you log in whenever
you
get
log
to
in.
the- yes.
But for 1.5 hours, that person has been doing everything else except what brought them to work.
Wow. So how do we deal with this going forward?
Alternatively,
Yes.
you have somebody who is seated at a computer at 7 a.m. in his pajamas at home. He hasn't even bathed, he hasn't brushed his teeth, but he's doing work at home.
And files are coming.
Files are coming, work is coming in,
Yes,
and the person is at home. You see, those are two categories of people.
Yeah.
You can also have another category of somebody who is at home but is struggling to deliver. Why? Because this person has not mastered the skill of self-productivity and self-discipline. So it's really a balance between those things. Every individual needs to learn how to lead themselves. If you can lead yourself, one, and if you can communicate very well, I really think you can walk away from home. But if you can't do those things, you need to come into the office and have a supervisor standing over you and saying, keep going, 30 minutes, when can I get this? How far have you gone with this and what? And so it's a combination of all those things. And every one of us is learning how to be more efficient and to lead ourselves. We are all on a journey. So as a boss, you have to be able to tell and say, where is my team? Where I used to work previously, there were some people were very efficient at working from home and they loved it, while others really needed to come into the office to be in that space to work.
Wow. Jeremy, As an individual, how can I foster more creativity to honest success for myself, given the perspective and the context that you have placed the work culture within an organization, the things that you've just explained now, and I've been listening to you, and I'm wondering, as an individual, things have not been, I've fallen short of the glory of the things that you're talking about right now. I have cheated the organization here. I've not been faithful to the organization that they're paying my salary. But now, lockdown came, and because the president kept saying work from home, and many other heads of states kept telling people work from home and encouraging organizations to work from home to avoid the pandemic that we're in. And now some people, organizations woke up and said, hey, wait a minute, actually, Mr. Killer all this time wasn't delivering. So Mr. Killer is effective as this month. Unfortunately, the company will no longer be in need of your services. And then I wake up and I realize this is now real. I never thought about it. Then there's a Jeremy X who has been there, and the organization is saying, Jeremy, I think we have realized that B3 is doing more work than you are doing. Therefore, we are cutting down on people. So also effective this time of the year, unfortunately, this is going to be your last salary. And she's very efficient. Yes, very efficient. She's now taken 3 of your jobs. 3 people are now 1 person, and I'm struggling. So eventually now I hear you talk now on the Creative Industry Talk, and I want to think about creativity. Most times people think that creativity is just about thinking and designing things and putting things together and making it look beautiful. But the thinking of an individual of how can I make my life better? How can I stop drinking? How can I stop smoking? How can I stop using substance to be able to make me become creative to work? You know, something else has taken the space that God has given you that has been free for you to think. It's the question I pose to you as an individual. How can I foster more creativity to harness success if I've not been doing it? Okay. One of the things that we used to have, and you're no stranger to the advertising industry, we used to have what we call a traffic manager. And this person's job was to make sure that they log all the work, distribute it, and follow up and make sure it comes out. That is what software does nowadays. You see, that's what software does. Okay. You know, there are so many softwares online that do that. And with the lockdown, they even increased. So you just punch in all the work, you know, and put in the deadlines, put in the contact people. In the software, it shows you a timeline with graphs and everything and can give you daily reports. And you get your team to log in so they can see who is doing what and they can log their progress daily. Immediately, they have eliminated the person who was doing the traffic manager in the office. You see what I mean? And when you think about it, by the way, you see all these traffic policemen on our streets. Ideally, they should have been replaced by traffic lights. Okay? But the reason why they have not been is because of the indiscipline of the drivers. Okay? So likewise, in the workplace, you have those softwares. But if you don't have disciplined employees, you will still need traffic men or a traffic manager on the road in the workplace now. So individual discipline and self-leadership is very important. And I don't say this as somebody who has attained it, because every one of us is on a journey, growing every day. The discipline of execution of work in time, the discipline of communicating clearly and in time, the discipline of thinking creatively and coming up with something that's going to stand out. All those are the challenges we face every day, you know. But the most important thing, I believe, is that as an individual, you must ask yourself, am I adding value to this organization? Wow. Well, you're on a Creative Industry Talk. Jeremy Byemanzi is giving us tips on how we can make ourselves better. We are talking about how to foster creativity within our organization for business success. And the topic of the discussion today is up there. We're looking at how can we make it better? How can we do it better? No one is better placed than the people who have been doing it. Jeremy has been in the advertising world for a long time. He left campus and that is what he studied and is what he's been doing. You know, he's the pastor, but this has always been where his bread comes from. Pastoring is about helping the flock to find themselves and to continue moving. It is not where the money comes from. The money comes from creativity, which means Jeremy still has to be more productive and be able to do this. What about you sitting home? What is your understanding of these things? How are you pulling yourself out of it? We're talking about a situation where a pandemic has brought in and people have lost their jobs, and perhaps you're one of those people who are sitting at home wondering what to do with yourself. There are many challenges. Every day we have challenges, and somebody is working with a lot of things. If you're not creative in the way that you handle that challenge, it becomes very difficult. Creative Industry Talk is going to go for a break, and when we come back, Jeremy will dive into the 3 questions given his experience as an advertiser, as an herdman, as a person who's been developing brands and managing reputations. So big corporations, what lessons can we pick from him? What advice can we pick from him? And secondly, and finally, Jeremy will be talking about how to promote creativity within our businesses, within self, within our families, within our churches, within our, streets. He's talked about how traffic men that sometimes override, traffic lights, because the traffic man either wants to be a little bit more relevant. Because I've seen that situation. We'll be right back after this break, and Jeremy will dive into it. And that will bring us to the end of the show. Stay right there. I'll be right back after the break. It is the Creative Industry Talk. Welcome back to the program. My name is Eddie Okila, and in the studio is Jeremy Biemanzi. We are talking about how can we use, or how can we foster creativity within our organization, within ourselves, to be able to make our businesses successful, or as an individual to be successful. Jeremy, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Jeremy, given your experience over the years, you have been working for some time now.
Yes.
And you have helped brands for some time. You've interacted with some of the most beautiful brands we have in Africa and across the world, and you've been giving service to them. Even from here in Kampala, the comfort of your home. And you, of course, have, built experiences and, challenges. You've seen challenges and navigated some of the turbulences that came with these brands.
Yes.
How can we use your experience, or how do you help us to facilitate the process of creativity so that I can become more successful in trying to use my creative works to make more money, or use myself to become more relevant to businesses or to individuals or to services going forward? Is basically the question I'm bringing to you. Over the years, you've had that. But how do you facilitate, or how do we facilitate creativity?
Okay, is that for an individual?
Start from individual, go to families, go to societies, because this is going on, and take us through to the nation, and to the corporation, to the nation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So quite simply, and I really like to put things very simply.
Yeah.
It is to deliver to the expectation, because everyone creates an expectation in someone. When I put myself out there and say I'm offering this service, and a person pays me, that money that I have received creates an expectation on the other side. There's an expectation of a good service. There's an expectation of a timely service. Now, if I fail to meet those expectations, immediately I am falling short. So quite simply, it is to meet and exceed the expectation of the person you're serving.
Wow.
That's what it is.
But how do I meet the expectation of the person I'm serving, Jeremy? How do I start? I don't know. Not very many people know how to start that journey. But certainly, you have been through certain processes that you can say, this is where you can start from. And this is how you can go forward from here. Would you want to share some of those small steps that I can start from when I'm not aware that these are the steps I need to go through? Maybe simple or complex or not complex? Yes.
Okay, the first thing I've learned is that people buy from people. That's a reality.
Yeah.
Even if I'm selling a product to an organization, behind that organization is a person I'm interacting with.
Yes.
Yeah. So if I'm going to sell you a product, I need to connect with you. All right. When I connect with you, that connection enables us to do business. Okay. Now, if we are going to do business, there is an expectation I have built in you, and there's an expectation you have built in me. Okay. So, for example, let's assume I am selling you a book. Okay. And I come to you and say, I'm selling you this book, Man on Top. This book will teach you the following things. You're like, oh, I'm interested in that book. So I give you the book and you pay me for it. Okay? So the book that you've taken, you have an expectation of what that book is going to do in your life when you read it. And I have received money from you equivalent to that book, which was an expectation I had, that when I give you my book, you're going to give me this money. So in order for that relationship to be efficient, you both need to deliver to that expectation. You know, for example, if I give you this book and you go and read it and you're like, nah, I didn't pick anything from this book, it was a waste of money, your expectation has been let down.
Wow.
You see, so quite simply, in the workspace, deliver as expected. Deliver as expected. And if you do that consistently over time, they'll get to know you as a person who delivers.
Yeah, Jeremy, when you are talking, my mind was racing around. And I was looking at how many times I have ordered for something, be it food in the restaurant,
Yes.
and it comes with an attitude towards me. And when it comes with an attitude towards me, I start to think about, I'm paying for this service.
Yeah.
You can't treat me like, it's like you're doing me a favor.
Yeah.
And then I've ordered for things online, and the products come and the packaging is not okay, it doesn't look very okay. And then my expectations, because what I saw as a picture that has been presented to me was really this. And then when I put the two together and I weigh them, I feel so disappointed.
Yes.
And then I begin to ask myself, so how do I deal with this? I recently was looking for a particular product to be taken to the hospital. It was so difficult to find, and I was so stressed. And then this gentleman, finally we got the product.
Yeah.
The product was more expensive than I expected. But when he delivered the product, he put some human touch to it. He said something, says, if you are happy, and finally, when your human being gets out of the hospital, I hope you will remember us, that we are the people that were able to get this to you when you couldn't get it from anywhere. And you didn't look at the value, you didn't look at the money, but look at the things we did for you. I've been thinking about it, and now you've just touched something very interesting. People buy from people, and the people buy because you're touching them. Jeremy, there are so many people out there who don't even know that respecting a customer is important. I one time heard the person who said that I can find somebody else who can give you the same, who can give me the same service. If you think I'm the one giving you the money. If you don't want my money, okay, I'll give you my money with my condition. Then I felt like, okay, maybe my service is not good for this person. So it made me feel so bad. But years down the road, 2-3 years down the road, the person comes to me back to me and says, Eddie, I want you to give me the service. Then I said, but the last time you said my service was so bad. There's this whole thing that the person who gives you the money is king and not the customer. But we've had this old saying that customer is king. How do we address that going forward? To avoid me losing a customer who is giving me a good service just because I am proud, and to avoid me losing a good product just because I am proud. How do we address this going forward? How can you help the person who is confused outside there and probably is annoyed and is about to fire the only customer who can continue to give him consistent businesses to go forward, to develop the business going forward?
I hope I understand your question.
I think you understand, because in the ad industry they always say that people in the advertising firms just take money, they don't do anyone. And all of us who are outsourced from out here to give the service to ad agencies always feel like we're not treated well.
Yes.
You get our money, you first use it, you mistreat us, but we're the one making you get that money. That fight has always been there. And how do we bridge that gap between the two?
You see, first of all, there's needs for education. There is a need for education. And with the advertising industry, we have a big challenge because people always feel like they can get it cheaper elsewhere, you know? And with apps like Fiverr, and there's another one called, I forget the name, People something.
Yes.
People are able to go online and find the service online, pay for it, and the person will deliver in 3 days. And sometimes a local person is not able to deliver within that timeline. And so you find that you're competing against people online who do what you do, and sometimes even do it cheaper.
Yeah.
The only problem though is that you're not sure what you will get. Because if somebody is not accessible to you, you know, it can be a problem. Somebody can disappear. Somebody can respond to you after several days and you miss a deadline after you have paid them. And all those are challenges you face with dealing with an unknown face behind a computer.
Yeah.
So for the people who are local, the interaction builds a relationship. Like I said earlier, people buy from people. So if you're able to foster a relationship with the person, it helps you. One of the things we say is that you and your customer are in a relationship, you're partners. Don't treat them like they're just giving you a service and you walk away. Build a relationship and let it grow over time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeremy, it's a very interesting conversation we're having. I want to say this, that there's this new thing that has come up. So many young people are becoming more creative. We're channeling so many people out of universities all across and colleges, and they're all coming to the market space. But there is no employment in the market space, and no one is creating employment for themselves. And some of the things we're talking about here simply needs a person to be more creative, to say, if the apps are competing with me, how can I defeat the application that is made that allows the person in the US to interact with my customer here much easily and take business away from me? And then how can me who is here, locally here, I can call Jeremy, I can go to Jeremy's sitting room, or you know, and say, let's have coffee. But how do I become this? And then you realize that many of these children, or many of these young people, many of the people who are being channeled right now, can't create, can't think creatively. Creative thinking severely limited. I want you to share with us, how can these people who are now, content creation has become content creation. In fact, everybody's talking about, I mean, content creation. But then you say, okay, what content are you creating? And for what solution, for what problem are you creating the content? Then they say, I was just in the, Creative Hub the other day, and I saw how people are walking around, and I thought maybe if I come up with a bicycle tires, I can make them, do this. Then it says, but the bicycle tires will need the second wheel to ride, and that person will need energy to ride the bike. Without the energy and the cardiorespiratory capacity being strong enough, they can't ride the bike. Then they start saying, I don't think you understand my thinking. How do we help these young people to become more creators, given your experience over the years, as opposed to depending on what is already there that is not enough for all of us to feed from?
So that's funny. You see, the industry is changing, and one of the ways that it's changing is maybe I can start with a story. Yesterday I had a class with my friend John Babirukamu on digital marketing. Oh,
it finally happened.
Yes, it happened yesterday. And we had so many people on the call, and we were teaching. John was doing most of the teaching. For me, I was there to gather the people, and because of the relationships I have. And so he was teaching about digital marketing. And most of the people who came to the class realized they didn't know what they were talking about. Because people have been using the term digital marketing, social media marketing, and what I'm an influencer and everything. And so John comes on and blows us out of the water and shows us that you guys are kidding. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yes.
One of the things that was discussed is the need for every business to have online presence in form of a website.
Yes.
And one of the things he said is that there are so many platforms online where you can go and build a website online. Most of these websites advertise their service as the ability to build a website without knowing how to code. So you have Wix.com, you have withoutcode.com, all these websites come up. So the deception is for a business owner to think that he can go online and build his website on this portal because he has been told that it's easier and cheaper. And then he goes there and he realizes, my God, he doesn't have the time. He doesn't know what dimensions is. He doesn't know the DPI of an image online, how to get a clear picture. He's absolutely overwhelmed by that process. Then he goes back to a web designer and says, can you help me do this thing? And that guy will come on that very platform and do it for him. What does that say? There are competencies that people have developed over time. You can't cut them out. Even with machine learning, you will still need a person because people run machines. You see? So you need to know that in order to win, you need to depend on people. You can't do everything yourself.
Wow. Jeremy, finally, how do we promote creative thinking among ourselves? Business owners. Consumers, because as a consumer I need to be thinking creatively before I can buy this product. Do I need this product really now? COVID-19 has hit me. My salary is not as good as it used to be. I'm not earning this. A lot of times we are buying products that we don't need to impress people who actually don't care. I've seen people buy it, and I keep telling people, you don't need that. I take time to buy a suit, and when I buy a suit, it's quite expensive. And when I wear it, I want to make sure that I go and work out in the gym, and when I wear this suit, it's always looking new to many people. But it's because I'm being creative. I'm being creative to maintain my suit so I keep looking new. I don't wear it every day. Now, many people don't know this. How can we promote creative thinking, Jeremy? Our education system, teachers. It has always taught us one thing. I give you this knowledge the way it is, like John was saying. I give you the way it is. Give it back to me the way it is. If you change it and put your own thinking in it, I'll mark you wrong. All through our education, from primary school, from nursery school to secondary school to universities, we are just giving. Then when I come out of university and now putting on Zeus, I'm a lawyer, putting everything, then they says, we are looking for people who can think outside the box. And then all of a sudden, the light bulbs off my head. I go into a room for an interview. I don't know what creative thinking is. I've never promoted creative thinking in my business. So in other words, I don't know how do we promote creative thinking going forward, given all the background and all the challenges, opportunities that we've discussed on the show today.
Okay. Let me share some experiences. Create a culture of continuous learning or a culture of continuous improvement in your workspace. I am a member of Worship Harvest, and we have what we call a culture of leadership, but also a culture of continuous improvement. That means that everybody in the workspace must look at themselves as a leader, and they must learn what it means to be a leader. Leaders find solutions, they don't present problems. So what happens in a workspace is typically people exist and present problems. So you have a boss, and he has hired you to solve a certain problem. But you keep coming to him to report that problem. For example, the computer cannot start. I can't find how to connect the mouse. You keep presenting problems to him. Yet what you're supposed to be doing is finding solutions. So my wife used to tell me, she used to work in a certain organization, and in that organization they had a very tough boss. This was her first workplace out after school. Whenever she went to him with a problem, he told her, bring me 5 solutions
to these problems you are asking me to solve.
Don't come to me with a problem. Come and tell me, this is the problem, These are 5 possible solutions to this problem. Every time you come to me, that's one thing you can do. That is a culture of leadership in there that you're creating, okay? So if I come to you and you're my boss and I say, my computer has blacked out.
I can't print this document you've told me to print now.
I can't print this document you've told me to print. Or there is no toner.
Yes.
Or the cartridge is empty.
Yes.
Yeah? You should come to me with 5 solutions to that problem. So you come to me and said, I tried to print the document and I realized the printer was faulty. I have made this call to this person to come and deliver, or I have called these suppliers, this is how much they charge for this ink. Which of these people should I go with? I've spoken to accounts, and they say they have some petty cash, they can afford to spend this on this at this time.
Or I have sent a office cleaner to go and print the document from out as we wait for this guy
this guy. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
so in other words, you have not put a roadblock in front of you, but you have showed your boss right there that you have thought of all these options. And you are finding ways of delivering a printed document to him instead of excuses.
Wow.
That's a culture of leadership.
Wow.
Okay. Number 2, a culture of continuous improvement is where you are always challenging the status quo and asking yourself, how can we do it better? I started leading the church media team in March this year, and I have experienced creatives, videographers, people to run vMix, animators, graphic designers, pro presenter, and all these people, you know. And we used to broadcast online, and we still do. We broadcast on YouTube, we broadcast on Vimeo, we broadcast on, you know, there was Facebook and the like.
Yes. And before the whole situation happened.
Yes. But now we are on Twitter Spaces also. Now we are on Instagram. You see, we keep pushing the limits and say, how can we get this content on as many channels as possible? We got to join Twitter Spaces after our pastor was invited by Robert Kabushenga to Twitter Spaces. And we looked at the numbers and we're like, wow, this thing is so popular. It's a new space. We didn't know about it. But we found
there was Twitter Live and Twitter streaming before they changed. Yes.
So we found a way of getting our live stream, our church stream on Twitter Spaces every Sunday. Did I do it myself? No. But I have a competent person on the team who led himself and said, you know what, I can crack this thing. My role is to lead the team, to encourage them, to charge them, and make sure that they get the work done and everybody wins. So a culture of continuous improvement, saying, what can we do better? You know, the other time we had this problem, how can we avoid it this time? That's how you change your organization. So number 1, a culture of leadership. Number 2, a culture of continuous improvement. Number 3, a culture of continuous learning. Everyone in the workspace should be a student. Everyone should be reading something, learning something, teaching something to someone, because you don't want your mind to grow, I would say probably grow old. I don't know what other word to use.
Or to be locked in the things you know and not think about the things that you don't know.
To be locked into a certain way of thinking. And like I said last week, referring to you and muscles and going to the gym and working out, the brain is a muscle. So you always have to keep exercising it. That's why playing games exercises your mind. You know, I was having a conversation recently with some leaders, and one of our leaders, our pastor, was saying playing Matatu helped him think strategically and think quickly. Playing chess, if you introduce your children to chess, it helps them think strategically and think faster and make decisions quicker. So sometimes if you've not exposed yourself to that kind of thinking, you find yourself thinking slower, taking a long time to make decisions, and it just works against you.
Wow, you've talked about playing Matatus and playing cards. I was masterful at playing that. We even played for money. Now
crossword puzzles.
Years down the road, that's how I was launched into my strategy as a strategist. We started to play this card. So when I went for training to be, a behavior change communication strategist, that's when I realized they started to bring Matatu to play, and we're playing points. And they said the one to reach 300 will be the one to win, or the one the lowest point to win. Trust me, it taught me so many things that I know today that I didn't know. Creative thinking and challenging my mind to always think. Jeremy, I want you to pick that book as we close the show. There's a book right behind you, written by you, called Man on Top. That is the work of a creative person. If you put that book, actually, you can see it from Jeremy's holding it. This is the writer of the book, Jeremy himself, and this book has been around for some time. Now, I want to ask you about this book, the design of this book. Let's start from the first of the book. Can you explain to us what was going in your mind and what creative processes did you go through to create this book that you later on sold to us? And I don't know how many people have bought the book and read the book, because that right there lies the answers to what we're saying, or the connectivity to the answers we're talking about, the discussion we're talking about here, saying how to foster creativity within an organization for business success. This was your business.
Yes.
You foster creativity to create these things. And you brought these things out. Can you please take us through that as we close the show?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so thank you. Man on Top really is a book about a young man growing up.
Yes. A young man, Jeremy Demans.
Yes. And lessons that I have learned and I'm still learning on the journey towards manhood. So this book is really a collection of those lessons.
Okay.
So the thinking behind the design is really about how can I make this book stand out on a shelf in a restock, and how can it get somebody to pick it up? And
that is attractiveness. That is attractive to me, and then I'll pick it.
So the idea, of course, the cover is a person, a young man, as you can see, with muscles and looking.
Can we have a wide shot so we can see this?
Looking also cool and everything. So that was this is really what the cover is about. But then the title of the book, Man on Top, is very controversial. Actually, my editor told me, Jeremy, there is no way you can call your book Man on Top. And I said, no, I'm actually going to call it Man on Top because I think I can sell it. Okay, I think I can sell it. And so the first task for me was to define Man on Top away from the definition it already has.
That we already know. Yes.
So for me, a man on top is a man that is faithful, dependable, and responsible. So I began a campaign about saying you're a man on top, you're faithful, you're responsible, you're productive. So every man has within them a desire to be those three things, to be faithful, to be productive, and to be responsible. So every person who thought they were faithful, responsible, and productive said to call themselves a man on top. You see, that was the idea in terms of the title. The cover really was purely about getting people to pick up the book, especially the ladies. I think it worked.
Let's talk about the back of the book. There's a man with before we go there, there's a man in front of the book. You have a guy wearing shades. Okay, so what was the concept behind a man wearing a shade? In relation to the book itself. Why did you put a guy wearing shades?
First of all, other than the fact that it was a good image, I was really thinking about the future, where you are going as a young man, but also it needed to be somebody who is young and trendy and funky, so that the younger people can pick up the book and see themselves in it. Every young man wants to be nice and cool and trendy and have some big muscles. Some of us think we have muscles, but until you take off your shirt, but I think this model actually looks a bit like you.
Okay, let's talk about the back of the book. We're talking about fostering creativity for business success. I mean, Jeremy has an example and we have it here. Let's talk about the back of the book.
The back of the book really was, I just picked an excerpt of a comment that my pastor, who was the guy who wrote the foreword of the book, and put it there. Just information that can give people a quick snapshot of what is inside the book. But also because he's a very influential person, if he endorses the book, it's very possible that people will pick it up and say, oh, if he has endorsed this book, it must be really good. And then a little bit of a profile about myself. That's really.
And you didn't put the whole CV. Normally people put the whole CV of what you have done and all this stuff. That right there is what is a perfect definition of using fostering creativity within self, okay, within the work you are doing for success of this book. How many copies of these books have you sold, by the way?
Wow, I have sold about 900 copies.
Wow.
I originally printed 1,000. Then somebody told me, oh, I found a big market for you in one of these big churches in Kampala. can you print more? And I went and printed 1,500, and that deal died. So I found myself with so many books.
Yes.
So one day I just made a decision to sell 3 books every day on Facebook.
Wow.
So I'd go to Facebook, look at my friends who are online,
Yes.
and just start to chat with them and say, hey, how are you? What? Have you read my book, Man on Top? No, I haven't. Hey, can I get a copy? Yes. Then I gave the stash of the books to a border man friend of mine in Kampala.
Yes.
So every time somebody would order a book, I'll just send him the name, the location, and the number.
And the border guy would deliver.
The border guy would deliver, and he would send me the money, and then I would pay him.
Wow.
That's how I was able to. But I still have about 600 books still in my stash at home.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you have there, you have it right there, talking to Jeremy Bemanzi. If you haven't read Jeremy's book, please make it a point to find a copy of this book and read it. We just wanted to use this book as a measure of, of an example of what we're talking about here, that when we're talking about fostering creativity for business change or for business success, you have got to go through what Jeremy has gone through to have a book. That's an example of a personal product that you put out there for people to actually go about it. 900 copies sold, 600 copies remaining. Let's see how many of you can pick this book from Jeremy. In fact, I want to buy for 2 people. Unfortunately, we are not able to read your comments today. We're not able to see your comments today because our back-end system is not bringing your messages to us, but we definitely promise that we're going to read some of these comments and respond to you, next week on the show. But I want to give 2 guys. Let's see, what is the most interesting thing that Jeremy has said on this show that you actually deserve to have a book from him? Send a message to me, send a comment up there, and we'll be able to, and your contacts and everything. The one with the best recap of what Jeremy has discussed in the last 2 weeks of being on Creative Industry Talk, you'll win yourself a copy of this book. Jeremy, you want to give the second one? Tell me which one should give. I'll buy the book. I'll give it out. But what do you want them to do to get the book?
I think it would be great to get one person who can pick out one of the things I've said in the past 2 weeks or in the last week and say what they have done about it.
Yes.
Yeah, especially from last week. What have you done since last week's show? Based on what I said.
Yes.
And we can pick one of them.
Wow, so there you have it, 2 books ready to go. And of course, we want to say, Jeremy, thank you so much for coming here. We always say spread the love. We haven't done, we're spreading the love to everyone out there. And we're saying thank you very much. We've been discussing fostering creativity, or how to foster creativity for business success going forward. Until next week, Creative Industry has come to an end. It is said, if a man doesn't think, that man is a super failure in life. But also it says, every time you think fast, you will always defeat your enemies before they catches up with you, or before they caught up with you, or before they catch up with you. Whichever the way you would like to put it, that is something I want to leave you with. Creative Industry Talk, Eddie Okello, Jeremy Bemanzi, signing out.